Chapter 301. Black Beetle could be considered a mentally enhanced ability user. Even though he didn't have much talent in the field of sensing and observation, he had basic common sense. If his own sensing and observation could reach the standard of being transparent and bright, being unobstructed and unobstructed, then it would naturally be excellent. The problem was that when he became the target of sensing and observation, his entire body would be leaking wind and rain. His body and mind would be exposed to the finest details. That would drive him crazy. This was what Black Beetle was feeling right now. From a realistic and understandable level, Luo Nan's face was between his palms and fingers. He just needed to reach out a little and he would be able to tear the kid's face off. But when that feeling of being unobstructed and unobstructed appeared, he felt as if his body was leaking wind from all sides. An unsuppressible feeling of weakness instantly flooded his entire body. What was going on? It was hard for Black Beetle to figure out this sudden and unforeseen event in a short amount of time. He could only see Luo Nan's eyes oozing blood through the gaps between his palms and fingers. Luo Nan's pupils were slightly dilated, unfocused, motionless, and somewhat lifeless. Just as this judgment arose in Black Beetle's mind, Luo Nan's eyeballs moved. The scattered rays of light faintly converged, and there was a bit of weak light that connected with Black Beetle's line of sight. The glimmering light was like a needle. The penetrating force was like silk. This tiny force of the needle would only cause a bit of pain if it pierced into the thick skin and flesh. But if it pierced into the eyeball, the heart, or the brain, then the result would certainly be different. This was what Black Beetle sensed. The state of being riddled with holes was unable to provide any protection, and the force of the needle was unimpeded. It pierced through and stirred at his weakest and most fatal location. In an instant, the pain was like thunder exploding in his brain. It then rapidly spread out, unable to be controlled. Black Beetle howled in pain. His eyeballs nearly popped out of his eye sockets. Black and red crisscrossed in his field of vision. His senses were in chaos. Fear flooded his heart instinctively, but his many years of fighting experience still drove him. He summoned his remaining courage and did his utmost to reach out with his hand. He intended to take down the mischievous kid in one fell swoop. He was only a fist's distance away. His fingernails, coated with poison, only grabbed air. Black Beetle's figure continued to charge forward after his attack missed. Only now did he remember that he was in the midst of a high-speed assault. His senses were in error, and his nervous system was under stress. It completely messed up the balance of his body. F***CK. His fingers slid diagonally across the hard wall, and then his wrist bones hit the edge of the wall. Next, his head and body collided. Black Beetle's entire body was smashed into the wall of the elevator area. Under the impact of the intense pain, his body's reaction was completely ineffective. He had truly smashed into the wall without the slightest bit of cushioning. Then he slid to the ground, the sunglasses covering his face broken. It was only then that the pain in his head showed signs of subsiding. However, the lingering pain in his fingertips, wrists, head, and torso continued. Compared to the previous wave, the degree of pain was nothing. However, the humiliation of slapping the wall and falling to the ground was like acid splashing into his chest and splashing all over his face. "I'll kill you!" Black Beetle let out a roar, and at the same time, he pulled off his already deformed sunglasses and crushed them with his palm. He ignored his chaotic vision and his terrible sense of balance. He supported himself against the wall and struggled to stand up. He waved his arms in a venting manner and controlled the beetles to fly in all directions. But everything he did was useless. He couldn't even touch a hair on Luo Nan's head. He needed to calm down. He needed to calm down. Black Beetle's successive attacks failed, and his emotions of fury and fear interweaved and fluctuated. Finally, there was a trough, and Black Beetle seized it. He calmed his mind with all his might, trying to break free from his current terrible state. He leaned against the wall and tried to call out to his temporary partner, "Puppeteer, Puppeteer." F***CK. Before Puppeteer could respond, the piercing feeling came again. But this time, it didn't bring about intense pain. Instead, it brought about a sound of unknown origin. No, it was telepathy. Black Beetle smashed his hand against the wall. His heart was filled with resentment, but it was also hard for him to escape from fear. Powerhouses with formidable soul strength and proficient in corresponding techniques could indeed transmit telepathic thoughts to others. But most of the time, it was done in a state of peace. In a true battle of life and death, both sides would be mentally tense and highly vigilant. This sort of one-sided telepathic infusion would certainly suffer powerful interference. It was practically impossible to guarantee the completeness and accuracy of the information. But now, the sound that rang in Black Beetle's mind, aside from the initial noise, grew clearer and clearer. Factor analysis. I've learned it before. Luo Nan's telepathic expression continued the topic they had been discussing before. It was the analysis of the factors of victory and defeat. Black Beetle had undoubtedly brought this up to ridicule Luo Nan and throw his mind into chaos. And now, Luo Nan had reversed the topic and stuffed it into Black Beetle's mind bit by bit. My analysis of the factors of victory and superiority is different from yours. What I see you can't see. What I know you don't know. What I control, you can't compare. What I am at you can't reach. In the end, I came to a conclusion. My advantage lies outside of your poor imagination. The rough and tidy sentences and information revealed the jerkiness of being pieced together at the last minute. But the poisonous and spicy ridicule followed Luo Nan's telepathic thoughts and seeped in layer by layer until it was branded into an imprint. Black Beetle crushed a molar from his teeth. In the next moment, his emotions sputtered out along with the crushed teeth and the glow of blood. F***ck your ancestors. Black Beetle cursed crudely. His boiling energy and blood were unable to drown out the bone-chilling current in Black Beetle's mind. He knew very well that Luo Nan's telepathic thoughts weren't powerful. They were just strands. But it was hard for Black Beetle to interfere with Luo Nan's telepathic thoughts no matter what methods he used to defend. This strand of telepathic thoughts could come and go as they pleased. It wantonly painted and engraved marks on his mental plane. It was as if it had entered an uninhabited realm. It was a perfect match with the feeling of being transparent and bright, unobstructed and unobstructed. Black Beetle was unable to suppress his fear and shame. They were like two steel blades. One blade stabbed in and the other pulled out. They took turns stabbing and chopping, shredding his dignity beyond recognition. If Luo Nan exerted just a bit more force, just a bit more, ding. The sound of the elevator's arrival rang out in his ear. Black Beetle's vision, which had gone haywire due to the intense pain, had recovered somewhat. He was in a trance, and an afterimage flashed past the corner of his eyes. Soon, the elevator door closed once more. Luo Nan didn't make a sound at this time. A series of changes in the details were like a foreshadowing thread. It was abruptly raised, causing Black Beetle's mind to tremble. A certain thought emerged in his mind. If that kid could really finish me off so easily, why would he fight to the point of having his eyes bleed? Why would he spout so much nonsense? Black Beetle didn't have the time to think about what would happen next. He staggered half a step and turned to look at the elevator. But all he saw was the high-speed elevator door closing, and the box had already gone down. Black Beetle's somewhat blurry vision looked all around. He could see the spacious elevator area. He could see the space of the building, but where was Luo Nan's shadow? Add a bit more force. There's a problem with that kid's interference ability. It's fine if it's a pure mental attack, but it's a method that directly penetrates and affects the structure of body and soul. Luo Nan shouldn't be able to exert any force at all. F***ck me. Black Beetle cursed loudly once more. He struck the elevator door heavily, but all he did was smash a dent in the metal baffle. The elevator's floor display had already begun to change. Black Beetle no longer hesitated. He shook his head forcefully, locking onto the fire escape passageway outside the corridor. He rushed over with a few steps, smashed open the door to the stairwell, and jumped down through the narrow gap in the stairs. At the same time, he contacted his companion once more. You're a wire manipulator? If you're not dead, say something. Hiss. That kid is too sneaky. I nearly choked to death in the water. I nearly lost the person in my hands. Puppeteer's curses finally came back. Snake Tongue's protective spell isn't worth a fart. This is his last resort. Black Beetle gritted his teeth and said, "He's out of strength. He's running away. He won't be able to hold on for long. Keep an eye on the elevator. Number 15. I'm keeping an eye." It stopped. Floor 133. Within the crystal pillar, the Devil Ray ran side by side with the high-speed elevator. Black Beetle wasn't bad either. He borrowed strength from his elbow a few times, and his body flipped over. He accurately stopped at the stairwell of the 133rd floor, then he smashed through the door and exited. A white-collar worker just so happened to be waiting in front of elevator number 15 in the elevator. He was the one who had interrupted the elevator's descent. This white-collar worker was startled by Black Beetle, who suddenly rushed out from the fire escape passageway. He turned his head, and Black Beetle rushed in front of him like a phantom. Black Beetle extended a hand to press down on the white-collar worker's head, fiercely smashing him against the metal door. The white-collar worker's head immediately bled, and he fainted. "Thanks for your help." Black Beetle spat out these words without any sincerity, and his mouth cracked open. His expression grew more and more malevolent, and the aura on his body nearly ignited. The necktie around his neck was like a living snake as it slithered out of the collar of his suit. A certain beetle pattern inexplicably squirmed and protruded on it. It turned into a real beetle and crawled along the necktie. All Black Beetle needed to do was wrap the necktie around Luonan and stuff the venomous bug down Luonan's throat. Who cared if Luonan lived or died? The elevator was controlled by an automatic program. It didn't care about the situation outside at all. The elevator door automatically opened after it reached its destination. Black Beetle's body leaned forward, and he was about to make his move. However, the elevator was completely empty. There wasn't a single shadow to be seen. No, there was still a paper man. This palm-sized work of art came from the same school as the other two that Black Beetle had crushed to pieces. It was also fearless and fearless. After pressing the elevator button, it stood upright on the wooden floor of the elevator, assuming a fist stance. "Fuck you." The string of reason in Black Beetle's mind snapped just like that. He simply extended his palm. He ignored the pain in his palm and forcefully crushed the paper man to pieces. He didn't go down. He went back to the viewing platform. The Devil Ray rapidly floated up from the crystal pillar behind Black Beetle. Puppeteer gestured to Black Beetle through the protective glass, indicating for him to go up. This was an extremely normal action, but it was an absolute mockery from Black Beetle's perspective. He still hadn't truly figured out what was going on even now. He just knew that he had been played by Luonan once again. It was just like how Luonan had left an imprint on the mental plane with strands of telepathy. What I see, you can't see. What I know, you don't know. What I control, you can't compare. Where I am, you can't reach it. Chapter 302. The viewing platform had been bustling with noise and excitement. The tourists at the scene were in a state of chaos due to the Devil Ray breaking through the heavenly ocean lake. Some left, some alerted the police, and some joined in the fun. But by the time Luonan climbed onto the viewing platform once more, all sounds on the platform had been cut off. Several dozen people were lying on various parts of the platform, unconscious. There was no need to doubt that Luonan himself was the one who did this. According to the knowledge he had recently learned, clearing the scene before a clash between ability users was a necessary job. A complex and ever-changing scene would cause extra trouble. Of course, there were people who would deliberately create a chaotic situation in order to gain benefits. But Luonan estimated that he might not be able to be ruthless in a critical moment. He might as well do things more straightforwardly. He did not forget that there was a puppeteer on the other side, a puppeteer who could control intelligent life forms from afar. If they were to fight again, any clear-headed personnel could create obstacles for him. Luonan considered himself to be a rookie when it came to fighting. He had to carry out the experience imparted to him by his seniors in a meticulous manner. However, a certain experienced senior had already been completely stunned by the series of movements he had made earlier. How did you do it? How did you do it? How did you do it? Zhang Ying smacked the steering wheel in excitement. The sharp honking sound was deafening even to Luo Nan's ears. Zhang Ying had a belly full of words to say during the confrontation between Luo Nan and Black Beetle. She wanted to curse at Black Beetle, but she also wanted to comfort and remind Luo Nan. But she knew very well that Luo Nan was facing an absolutely disadvantageous match. In this life and death juncture, any unforeseen event could lead to a calamity. She could only suppress her worry and force herself to shut her mouth. She even had to worry about Shuelei. She didn't want her good intentions to do bad things and disturb Luo Nan's fight against the enemy. This conflict was more torturous than when she was fighting against a powerful enemy. She could no longer hold it in when the overall situation was decided. She let her belly full of depression explode. Zhang Ying's pleasant surprise also spurred on Shuelei, who was climbing the stairs with great difficulty. He took a few deep breaths and praised, "Nanster, beautifully done. Leave the rest to me. I'll be right there." Luo Nan strolled along the edge of the viewing platform and laughed. "There's plenty of time. Slow down a bit. Don't get beaten up before you can even stand firm." Phew, don't worry. No problem." Shuelei was worried that he would affect Luo Nan unfavorably just now. He rushed upwards with all his might, and he even had to hold his breath. Even though he had already obtained the talisman and connected the inside and the outside, he was still quite tired. Of course, Luo Nan was fine. That was stronger than anything else. It didn't take long for Shuelei to adjust his state of mind when he was relaxed. Hey, Luo, I'm asking you too." Although Zhang Ying was complaining, her excitement did not diminish at all. She still blasted the car horn loudly. "Tell me, how did you make the bug so miserable? That guy is an egomaniac, yes, but he is definitely not a fool." Luo Nan was able to feel the pure joy from the bottom of Zhang Ying's heart. Black Beetle could be considered an old acquaintance of hers, but Zhang Ying stood firmly by his side at this moment. Her position was clear and unwavering. Luo Nan enjoyed this sense of recognition. He thought for a moment and replied seriously, "Correct your mentality, use your advantage, and kill them with one strike. Unfortunately, there's still a problem with my interference ability. I can only buy some time." Kill them with one strike. Crag Burst must have taught you this, right? Yes, Luo Nan admitted. It was strange to say that the classes he took these past few days, whether it was Hiyuan, Bamboo Pole, or Papercut, all leaned towards the level of knowledge and technique. They rarely touched upon strategies to deal with the enemy. Cragburst's teaching plan was delayed due to the problem with Luo Nan's interference ability. Cragburst had a belly full of energy. He contacted Luo Nan a few times, but every long conversation revolved around actual combat. He imparted some practical experience to Luo Nan. Cragburst told Luo Nan that one's mentality was the most important when dealing with an enemy. It didn't matter if one was calm or hot-blooded. One must find the most suitable mentality for oneself. It might not be the most effective or the most thorough, but it was definitely the most stable. It could withstand even more variables. In short, this was an unshakable conviction. It could only be established upon the greatest, the most irreplaceable advantage. To put it in extreme terms, a person who possessed this mentality would think like this: enemies can defeat me, but they will never be able to defeat what I am good at. Luo Nan used this principle to first confirm his own domain of advantage. Hey, you really are stupid and bold. Cragburst and you aren't the same type, okay? Zhang Ying had a deep understanding of Cragburst's temperament. The more Cragburst thought so, the more she found it hard to believe. Luo Nan, you're a mage. Can your small body handle playing with a warrior's conviction is my life? Also, your advantages? Mental senses, attacks, and so on. Are they useful? Why must it be these things? Luo Nan felt a bit helpless. Whether it was Zhang Ying or Black Beetle, they both wholeheartedly attributed Luo Nan's advantages to the range of his senses and mental attacks. But Luo Nan never believed this. There were many powerful people in the world. No matter how outstanding Luo Nan's mental senses were, no matter how fierce the human-faced arachnid siege hammer was, there would certainly be people who were stronger than him in terms of the precision and range of his senses and the intensity of his mental attacks. They might even be much stronger than him. This kind of superficial advantage would sooner or later be directly destroyed by others. His advantages could only be established upon a certain irreplaceable and unique element. You still have cards up your sleeve? Zhang Yingying was a bit skeptical. She felt that she had a better understanding of Luo Nan. She really couldn't imagine what kind of cards Luo Nan could play in a short amount of time to play with Black Beetle until he wanted to die. I heard that you're learning under teacher Xuelei. To be able to teach a disciple like Xuelei, you must be an extraordinary person. But it's only been a few days. Hey Xuelei kid, what kind of quick mastery did your master teach you? Xuelei had already caught his breath during the time Luo Nan and Zhang Yingying were conversing. His breathing became much smoother. He answered, "It's the heart lantern of the eye's orifice. But this isn't a quick mastery technique. It's a technique for the eyes." How could it be? Oh my. Zhang Yingying came to a realization at nearly the same time. She didn't have the time to ask Luo Nan about the profoundness of victory. She spoke in an urgent tone. Black Beetle said that the blood vessels in your eyes exploded. Did you use some sort of forbidden move? How are you now? I'm fine. Luo Nan used his knuckles to lightly rub the corners of his eyes. The pain in his eyes was still there. The blood was still flowing out, but it was a bit lighter. The more he played it down, the more Zhang Yingying didn't dare to treat it lightly. Luo Nan smashed his car horn again, but his excitement and joy had faded away. All that was left was annoyance and worry. The kid will always be a kid. His eyes. How can you mess around in this place? Hey, didn't your teacher warn you when he passed on his skills? Xuelei was gloomy. The heart lantern of the eye's orifice is a technique of grinding. It's a gradual method. There's no such thing as a forbidden move. I see you. Xuelei had already pounced to the 140th floor by now. He could see him with his eyes, and he was waving at Luo Nan. Even if Luo Nan had to climb the remaining 2 floors, he would still be a step ahead of his 2 enemies. It could be said that Luo Nan was already in an invincible position. Luo Nan knew that his eyes were a bit damaged from forcefully integrating the heart lantern of the eye's orifice and the domain of mental senses. He had already surpassed his limits. It would be best for him to close his eyes and rest right now. However, he didn't want things to end like this. Luo Nan held onto the protective glass at the edge of the platform. His gaze naturally cast far away. The sky grew darker and darker. Cloud City Water Village was the main part of the large living area. There was also the area of Acumen College that was even further away. All of them lit up with lights, separating blurry shadows and silhouettes. This scene was somewhat similar to the Star River scene formed from Luo Nan's mental senses. It was just that the blurry and turbid areas of the Star River scene were mostly interference formed by the power of ability users. The ones before Luo Nan's eyes were just pure light that couldn't reach them. Before today, Luo Nan had tried many times to disperse the turbid clouds and dark mist in the Star River scene. He had grasped the various details of the life sketches with greater precision, but he had never been able to achieve it. But just now, Luo Nan had successfully sent a beam of light into the deepest parts of Black Beetle's body and soul structure when he faced Black Beetle. He had drawn the clearest life sketch, and he had seen through all the weaknesses of Black Beetle's life level. Only then was he able to seize the initiative and play with Black Beetle in the palm of his hand. That beam of light originated from, or at least partially originated from, the heart lantern of the eye's orifice. The heart lantern of the eye's orifice was not the cornerstone of Luo Nan's beliefs, but this technique imparted to him by Gym Master Xiao undoubtedly played an extremely crucial role. Normally, the heart lantern took into account the functions of storing and guiding water. It carved out the spiritual orifice of the body and activated Luo Nan's soul strength. And in practical use, it hung in the air, reflecting and foreseeing the dynamic trajectory of the material plane. It complemented Luo Nan's mental senses. When viewing an object or drawing a scene, if one angle was not clear, one could often find new discoveries by switching to a different angle. By comparing the two, one could see even more. It was impossible for an independent mental senses and a pure heart lantern of the eye's orifice to achieve the miraculous effect of wind passing through gaps and light illuminating the earth. But when the two were combined, Luo Nen used his mental senses to form a star river scene, and he used the heart lantern of the eye's orifice to sweep away the turbid clouds and dark mist. The mental and material planes coupled information, intersecting and positioning, formed a wisp of gentle wind and a beam of light. It saw through the truth hidden beneath the thick and chaotic surface. Yes, coupling. Borrowing this definition really made one's body and mind happy. Luo Nen closed his eyes and then opened them again. The light of his mental senses could already illuminate the life structure of ability users. Could it be that he was unable to illuminate the purely dusky void of the world? At this very moment, Luo Nen used a new and refined clairvoyance method to observe the void. He gazed at the silhouette of the jungle at the edge of the world. The increasingly dusky color of the sky could not obstruct him. The information on the material plane and the mental plane corresponded and connected once more. They rubbed against each other, bursting forth with a marvelous spiritual light. The light was cast into the reservoir of the heart lantern of the eye's orifice. Then it passed through the pupil, passed through the void, passed through the chaotic silhouette of the jungle, and hung above the target. The surface of the lake was like a small mirror amidst the withered leaves of the jungle. On one side was gear. The exquisite building carried a bit of a rusty color. The long river that pierced through the forest flowed through its other corner. It made a turn at the end of one's field of view, extending into the distance. It was as if it had been washed away by time for many years. When time moved, all things moved. Chapter 303. Luo Nen quietly gazed at the world before him. He remained motionless for a long time. Even when Xue Lei flipped onto the viewing platform and called out to him, Luo Nen did not respond. Xue Lei was a bit frightened. From his perspective, Luo Nan's face was stained with blood and tears. It was painted into a devilish face. Blood seeped from the corners of Luo Nan's eyes, and Luo Nan's eyes were completely red. Luo Nan should be sent to the hospital immediately. Hey, which one of you two is going to say something? Zhang Yingying, who had been ignored for a long time, slapped the steering wheel. Sister Ying, I think Nanster's state isn't right. Xue Lei was flustered. He rushed to ask Zhang Yingying for advice. However, Luo Nan's calm state of mind was very similar to Gym Master Xiu's usual demeanor. Xue Lei subconsciously lowered his voice, afraid of disturbing Luo Nan. Before he could receive a response from Zhang Yingying, Luo Nan's voice suddenly rang in his ear. The breath of heaven and earth may not be impossible to find. These words came out of nowhere. Xue Lei was stunned, but he felt an inexplicable sense of familiarity. He carefully pondered a few times before remembering that this was related to the Gym Master's fate theory. He had spoken of this to Luo Nan some time ago. However, the Gym Master's original intention was to say that the world was vast and the human strength was minuscule. Cultivators needed to constantly work hard and be attentive in all aspects. Only then could they borrow the power of heaven and earth for their own use. What stood out was that the mind was before the energy, and the energy was before the strength. The core of Luo Nan's words seemed to have changed. Xue Lei did not quite understand Luo Nan's thoughts, but he was worried about Luo Nan's state. He could only ask cautiously, Nanster? The flow and operation of the river, the existence and destruction of the forest, all have rules. They form their own systems. They can be said to have their own formats. It is these small formats that are like sets of gears naturally formed by the heavens. They are joined together to form the large format of heaven and earth. Luo Nan had already entered a state of mind. He continued speaking. From the perspective of formatting theory, the heaven and earth format is vast and boundless. It is rich in layers and it is constantly changing. It is like a production line assembled from complex machines. Millions of gears operate in sequence, transmitting power layer by layer. Here we go again. Zhang Yingying could not help but groan. Was the scene of Luo Nan talking to himself? Luonan was talking to Zhang Yinging. It was like a dream. She never expected that Luonan would purposely oppose Zhang Yinging. While Zhang Yinging was grumbling on the other side, Luonan suddenly came out from his extreme self-centered state. He sought interaction and posed a question to the two. The Heaven and Earth formats production line won't stop working. Under such circumstances, to insert a self-made gear into the production line and make it seamless, how do I do it? The answer is coupling. Luonan was like a child striving to show off. He impatiently announced the answer. A smile blossomed on his bloody, tear-stained face. It was extraordinarily bright and splendid. Xue Lei was stupefied once more. He didn't quite understand Luonan's words, but he had never seen Luonan have such a bright and clear appearance ever since they became acquainted. Indeed, Luonan was extremely delighted. The deeper his observations of gear went, the more he fell head over heels for the mysteries within. This gear building was embedded within the Heaven and Earth format. Rumbling production lines were added to the mix. They were precise and orderly, seamless, and there wasn't the slightest hint of artificiality. It was as if this was the natural quality of the world. If Luonan hadn't grasped the rhythm of heaven and earth breathing, how could this have happened? From this, Luonan was able to confirm an earlier guess. His mother's coupling design was closely related to formatting theory. It was like a kind of applied explanation. It demonstrated to the world how to apply formatting theory to the plane of reality. And this tangible achievement belonged to his mother. Formatting theory? Gear? Xue Lei finally found the key words in Luonan's words. He tried to follow the direction of Luonan's gaze. Under the dusky sky, Xue Lei gazed into the distance with his eyesight. He was able to make out the rough outline of the distant forest and the landmark building, but that was it. Nanster, you can see gear from here? Xue Lei was skeptical of Luonan's eyesight, but he was more worried. The burden of exhausting his eyesight was far too heavy in Luonan's current state. I can see it. It's so beautiful. Luonan's voice was fleeting, just like the marvelous scene before his eyes. It was impossible to touch upon the hidden mysteries of gear with the naked eye or mental sensing clairvoyance. Only the two modes of vision and mental sensing could realize information coupling and cross-positioning. Only then could one touch upon the truth behind the surface. One could look at the incorporeal law and order, silently transforming and nurturing in the void of heaven and earth. Luonan greedily watched all of this. He couldn't see enough no matter what. Xue Lei stomped his feet anxiously to the side. He was unable to understand the world within Luonan's eyes, but he was still able to grasp a thing or two about the energy emanating from Luonan's body. From what he understood, the energy of Luonan's eye's orifice was far too vigorous. It was like a wildly growing plant. It was a seedling before, but it had become a towering tree in the blink of an eye. Where did this terrifying driving force come from? Was there enough momentum? Could the structural strength of the skeleton-shaped orifice hold up? A single mishap and he would be crippled. All right, find the gym master. The first person Xue Lei thought of when his life was at stake was still the gym master. But right when he planned to exit the three-way communications and make a call to find the gym master, Luonan suddenly took a deep breath. His arm was pressed against the glass of the protective fence. His head was facing down, and his eyelids drooped. He took the initiative to stop his incomprehensible gaze into the distance. He appeared extremely tired. Xue Lei rushed over. Nanster, are you okay? Why don't we take a break first? Luonan didn't open his eyes. He just laughed. I might be in a bit of a situation. A kind of order is like a gear. Two kinds of orders are coupled, and the gears bite together. If there's no precise design to connect them, and the difference in volume between the two sides is too large, it will be very troublesome. Xue Lei was stupefied. Zhang Yinging spoke hatefully from the other side. Don't worry about him. He's incurable. Luonan understood the different forms of concern and worry from his friends, but it was hard for him to continue explaining the state of his body. This was because it involved his deep secrets. The coupling relationship formed between the heart lantern of the eye's orifice and mental senses was essentially the beginning of Luo Nan's physical body cultivation. It was already in contact with the sizable formatting theory system. They could couple, but friction and collisions were unavoidable. 10 days of cultivation and 60 electric shocks to the heart lantern had clearly revealed the dangerous factors involved. Moreover, the situation had changed once again, and the trend was not good. It was like the thunderclouds high in the sky. Charged particles interweaved. Something was bound to happen. Powerful light suddenly flashed, and the external neuron was like a demon dragon that roared through the wind and thunder. It appeared in the palace of his brain, shaking off its body of electricity to bombard the heart lantern. The 61st time was stronger than any other time. This was a direct collision between the external neuron and the structure of the eye's orifice. Luo Nan had a premonition in his heart, but the intensity of this collision exceeded his expectations. His body suddenly tightened, and his mind became dizzy. He seemed to hear the sound of his eyeballs shattering in his daze. The impact his brain nerves received was transmitted to every part of his body through the tightly interwoven nervous system. His muscles, bones, blood, and fascia all twitched reflexively. Luo Nan curled up his body and crouched down. He extended his hand to cover his eyes, and tears flowed uncontrollably from his eyes. His eyeballs heated up, and his eyelids twitched wildly. It was extremely uncomfortable. Xue Lei's cry of alarm and Zhang Yingying's panicked shouts entered his ears. The two were in chaos. Yet Luo Nan's thoughts became more and more clear amidst the pain. He could even feel a slight change in the touch of his hand covering his eyes. It was not blood mixed with tears. Instead, it was more viscous. The intense and powerful pressure caused greater damage to his body. "This is nothing. I know what's going on." Luo Nan calmly comforted himself. The results were very good. There was probably nothing that could shake his heart more than the discovery of the mysteries of gear in a short amount of time. Even though Luo Nan couldn't see, he still accurately grabbed Xue Lei's outstretched arm and whispered, "I'm fine. Someone's coming from behind." Luo Nan had just finished speaking when the sound of water surged from the direction of the heavenly ocean lake. It was mixed with the oppressive sound of an explosion. An enormous devil ray soared into the sky and landed heavily, raising large waves in the pool. At the same time, a figure leaped up gracefully, jumping onto the frame structure propped up above the side of the pool. The figure wore a black diving suit, revealing the strong and sturdy lines of a human body. His face wore enormous diving goggles, and he had no intention of taking them off. This was one of the members of the investigation team sent by headquarters, Puppeteer. Xue Lei turned around, protecting Luo Nan behind him. His eyes were vigilant. Puppeteer didn't express anything. He relied on his good position to look down from above. His eyes behind the diving goggles continued to size up the two people at the edge of the viewing platform. Especially Luo Nan. Puppeteer was very interested in Luo Nan's painful crouch. Only a few seconds passed, and two elevators arrived not far from the edge of the heavenly ocean lake. The first to come out was Black Beetle. His sunglasses were thrown away, but his face was still a bit green. His cold and sinister gaze pierced over, ignoring Xue Lei. His gaze only fell on Luo Nan's arched back. Xue Lei wasn't the least bit polite to this person. He glared fiercely at Luo Nan, but he was still a bit nervous in his heart. Luo Nan's condition was terrible to the extreme. Not only did Black Beetle have to split his attention to protect Luo Nan, but he also had to defend against two attacks at the same time. Oh right, there was still the other elevator. Could it be the enemy's backup? The metal door of the other elevator opened just as Luo Nan was having a headache. Xue Lei was stupefied for a moment. It took him great effort to correct the direction of his perception, and he matched the identity of the person. Senior Sister Tian? The person who walked out of the elevator was none other than Tian Si. This dainty and beautiful senior sister had a deathly pale complexion. Her steps were stiff, and her upper body was in a strange posture. She crossed her hands and clutched her neck. Her strength was quite heavy, and her fingers had already sunk deep into her delicate skin. The enormous pressure caused her mouth to slightly open and her vermilion lips to tremble. This scene was bizarre and absurd. Due to the existence of self-protection mechanisms, it was impossible for normal people to use this sort of method to strangle themselves to death. However, this was not necessarily the case in a situation where one was under the control of extraordinary power. Shui Lei gnashed his teeth as he watched. "You bunch of people. You guys are members of the society." No one paid attention to him. Puppeteer spoke from above the pool, but he was pointing at Tianxi. His tone was gentle and without any distinguishing features. It was as if he was chatting normally. "We've met again after a short separation, beautiful. Do you want to say something?" Tianxi's lips trembled. Shui Lei's eyes and ears were sharp, but he could still hear her teeth chattering. She could be considered strong if she didn't have a mental breakdown after such a bizarre and savage method fell on her body. With great difficulty, Tianxi managed to squeeze out a few trembling words from her throat. "He'd been taking the stairs all this time." Everyone on the viewing platform was stupefied. Only Luo Nan, who had fallen to one knee amidst the pain, laughed in spite of himself, though his laughter was a bit shaky. He didn't turn his head. He just raised an arm. He sought interaction and posed a question to the two. The Heaven and Earth formats production line won't stop working. Under such circumstances, to insert a self-made gear into the production line and make it seamless, how do I do it? The answer is coupling. Luo Nan was like a child striving to show off. He impatiently announced the answer. A smile blossomed on his bloody, tear-stained face. It was extraordinarily bright and splendid. Shui Lei was stupefied once more. He didn't quite understand Luo Nan's words, but he had never seen Luo Nan have such a bright and clear appearance ever since they became acquainted. Indeed, Luo Nan was extremely delighted. The deeper his observations of gear went, the more he fell head over heels for the mysteries within. This gear building was embedded within the Heaven and Earth format. Rumbling production lines were added to the mix. They were precise and orderly, seamless, and there wasn't the slightest hint of artificiality. It was as if this was the natural quality of the world. If Luo Nan hadn't grasped the rhythm of Heaven and Earth breathing, how could this have happened? From this, Luo Nan was able to confirm an earlier guess. His mother's coupling design was closely related to formatting theory. It was like a kind of applied explanation. It demonstrated to the world how to apply formatting theory to the plane of reality. And this tangible achievement belonged to his mother. Formatting theory? Gear? Shui Lei finally found the key words in Luo Nan's words. He tried to follow the direction of Luo Nan's gaze. He gazed into the distance with his eyesight under the dusky sky. He was able to make out the rough outlines of the distant forest and the landmark building, but that was it. "Nanster, you can see gear from here?" Shui Lei was skeptical of the level of Luo Nan's eyesight, but he was more worried. The burden of exhausting his eyesight in Luo Nan's current state was far too heavy. "I can see it. It's so beautiful." Luo Nan's voice was fleeting, just like the marvelous scene before his eyes. It was impossible to touch upon the hidden mysteries of gear with the naked eye or mental sensing clairvoyance. Only the two modes of vision and mental sensing could realize information coupling and cross-positioning. Only then could one touch upon the truth behind the surface. One could see the formless law and order, silently transforming and nurturing in the void of Heaven and Earth. Luo Nan greedily watched all of this. He couldn't see enough no matter what. Shui Lei stomped his feet anxiously to the side. He was unable to understand the world within Luo Nan's eyes, but he was still able to grasp a bit of the energy emanating from Luo Nan's body. From what he understood, the energy of Luo Nan's eye's orifice was far too vigorous. It was like a wildly growing plant. It was a seedling before, but it had become a towering tree in the blink of an eye. Where did this terrifying driving force come from? Was the aftereffect enough? Could the structural strength of the skeleton-shaped orifice hold up? A single mishap and he would be crippled. "All right. Find the gym master." The first person Xue Lei thought of when his life was at stake was still the gym master. But right when he planned to exit the three-way communications and make a call to find the gym master, Luo Nan suddenly took a deep breath. His arm was pressed against the glass of the protective fence. His head was facing down, and his eyelids drooped. He took the initiative to stop his incomprehensible gaze into the distance. He appeared extremely tired. Xue Lei rushed over. "Nanster, are you okay? Why don't we take a break first?" Luo Nan didn't open his eyes. He just laughed. "I might be in a bit of a situation. A kind of order is like a gear. Two kinds of orders are coupled, and the gears bite together. If there's no precise design to connect them, and the difference in volume between the two is too large, then it will be very troublesome." Xue Lei was stupefied. Zhang Yingying spoke hatefully from the other side. "Don't worry about him. He's incurable." Luo Nan understood the different forms of concern and worry from his friends, but it was hard for him to continue explaining the situation with his body. This was because it involved his deep secrets. The coupling relationship formed between the heart lantern of the eye's orifice and mental senses was essentially the contact between Luo Nan's body cultivation and the sizable formatting theory system. They could couple, but friction and collisions were unavoidable. 10 days of cultivation and 60 electric shocks to the heart lantern had clearly revealed the dangerous factors involved. Moreover, the situation had changed once again, and the trend was not good. It was like the thunderclouds high in the sky. Charged particles interweaved. Something was bound to happen. A powerful light suddenly flashed, and the external neuron was like a demon dragon that roared through the wind and thunder. It appeared in the palace of Luo Nan's brain, shaking off a body of electricity to bombard the heart lantern. The 61st time was stronger than any other time. This was a direct collision between the external neuron and the structure of the eye's orifice. Luo Nan had a premonition in his mind, but the intensity of this collision exceeded his expectations. His body suddenly tightened, and his mind became dizzy. He seemed to hear the sound of his eyeballs shattering in his daze. The impact his brain nerves received was transmitted to every part of his body through his tightly interwoven nervous system. His muscles, bones, blood, and fascia all twitched reflexively. Luo Nan curled up his body and crouched down. He reached out his hand to cover his eyes, and tears flowed uncontrollably from his eyes. His eyeballs heated up, and his eyelids twitched wildly. It was extremely uncomfortable. Xue Lei's cry of alarm and Zhang Yingying's panicked shouts entered his ears. The two were in chaos. Luo Nan's thoughts became more and more clear amidst the pain. He could even feel a slight change in the touch of his hand covering his eyes. It wasn't blood mixed with tears. Instead, it was more viscous. The intense and powerful pressure caused greater damage to his body. "This is nothing. I know what's going on." Luo Nan calmly comforted himself. The results were very good. There was probably nothing that could shake his heart more than the discovery of the mysteries of gear in a short amount of time. Even though his eyes couldn't see, he still accurately grabbed Xue Lei's outstretched arm and whispered, "I'm fine. Someone's coming from behind." The sound of water surged from the direction of the heavenly ocean lake just as Luo Nan finished speaking. It was mixed with a muffled explosion. An enormous devil ray soared into the sky and landed heavily, raising large waves in the pool. At the same time, a figure leaped up gracefully, jumping onto the frame structure propped up above the side of the pool. The figure wore a black diving suit, revealing the strong and sturdy lines of a human body. His face wore enormous diving goggles, and he had no intention of taking them off. This was one of the members of the investigation team sent by headquarters, Puppeteer. Xue Lei turned around, protecting Luo Nan behind him. His eyes were vigilant. Puppeteer didn't express anything. He relied on his good position to look down from above. His eyes behind the diving goggles continued to size up the two people at the edge of the viewing platform. Especially Luo Nan. Puppeteer was very interested in Luo Nan's painful crouching state. Only a few seconds passed, and two elevators arrived not far from the edge of the heavenly ocean lake. The first to come out was Black Beetle. His sunglasses were thrown away, but his face was still a bit green. His cold and sinister gaze pierced over. He ignored Shui Lei, only landing on Luo Nan's arched back. Shui Lei wasn't the least bit polite to this person. He glared fiercely at Luo Nan, but he was still a bit nervous in his heart. Luo Nan's condition was terrible to the extreme. Not only did Black Beetle have to split his attention to protect Luo Nan, but he also had to defend against attacks from two sides at the same time. Oh right, there was still an elevator. Could it be the enemy's backup? The metal door of the other elevator opened just as Shui Lei was having a headache. Shui Lei was stupefied for a moment, but he managed to correct the direction of his understanding with great difficulty. Senior Sister Tian? The person who walked out of the elevator was none other than Tian Si. This dainty and beautiful senior sister had a deathly pale complexion. Her steps were stiff, and her upper body was in a strange posture. She crossed her hands and clutched her neck. Her strength was quite heavy, and her fingers had already sunk deep into her delicate skin. The enormous pressure caused her mouth to open slightly and her vermilion lips to tremble. This scene was bizarre and absurd. Due to the existence of self-protection mechanisms, it was impossible for normal people to use this sort of method to strangle themselves to death. However, this was not necessarily the case in a situation where one was under the control of extraordinary power. Shui Lei gnashed his teeth as he watched. You bunch of people. You guys are members of the society. No one paid attention to him. Puppeteer spoke from above the pool, but he was pointing at Tian Si. His tone was gentle and without any distinguishing features. It was as if he was chatting normally. We've met again after a short separation, beautiful. Do you want to say something? Tian Si's lips trembled. Shui Lei's eyes and ears were sharp, but he could still hear her teeth chattering. She could be considered strong if she didn't have a mental breakdown after such a bizarre and savage method fell on her body. With great difficulty, Tian Si managed to squeeze out a few trembling words from her throat. He'd been taking the stairs all this time. Everyone on the viewing platform was stupefied. Only Luo Nan, who had fallen to one knee amidst the pain, laughed in spite of himself, though his laughter was a bit shaky. He didn't turn his head. He just raised an arm. It's my fault. Chapter 305. On the entire viewing platform, only Luo Nan was able to understand the feeling of grievance in Tian Si's words. She really did follow Luo Nan's instructions. She walked down the stairs of the fire escape. No matter how tired she was, she didn't ask for help from the elevator. She stayed far away from the central crystal pillar, but she was still unable to escape Puppeteer's demonic claws. She was controlled and taken hostage. Of course, the grievance was secondary. Tian Si felt more fear. She was an intelligent person. She guessed that the current momentum of victory and defeat between the two sides from the choices made by Puppeteer and Black Beetle should have been reversed. Otherwise, there would be no meaning in her being a hostage. Her value to the kidnappers was to threaten Luo Nan. But what value did she have to Luo Nan? Why would he give up the great situation of reversing the hopeless situation and take the risk to rescue her? This situation nearly made Tian Si fall into despair. However, she could only place her hopes on Luo Nan. She was all the more afraid that Luo Nan would turn a blind eye because of the inconvenience. So her expression of grievance came from her heart, but it was more or less a deliberate expression. She only hoped that she could arouse a bit of Luo Nan's understanding and sympathy so that she could redeem a bit more of a chance at survival. Luo Nan's raised arm gave Tian Si a bit of comfort. However, her reaction couldn't satisfy others. Puppeteer sighed in the air above Heavenly Ocean Lake. He slid his body to the middle of the pool's edge along the frame structure above the pool. He crooked his finger at Tian Si. Tian Si's feet involuntarily leaned towards the swimming pool. When she got closer, her left thumb pressed against her lower jaw. She violently turned her face around and lifted it up slightly, forcing her to look up at the master who currently controlled her life. Let's work together. Puppeteer crouched down. He even lowered a hand to indicate to Tian Si. His diving goggles covered half of his face. His mouth cracked open, revealing his snow-white teeth in a smile. The shape of Puppeteer's face wasn't bad. He had the flavor of a sunny man, but Tianxi was completely drowned in fear under this smile. She could only watch helplessly. She was like a marionette. Her entire body was under the control of someone else. She extended a hand upward, connecting it with Puppeteer's palm. Then she was pulled up. Under the rough movements, she felt that her arm was about to be dislocated. She couldn't help but let out a painful groan, but the sound was quickly squeezed back. Puppeteer used his own hand in place of Tianxi's. He forcefully grabbed her neck and carefully sized her up face to face. He was very satisfied with Tianxi's complexion, which had turned from deathly pale to flushed from fear and suffocation. He took a deep breath in her hair and savored the delicate fragrance of her hair. At the same time, he laughed. "Beauty, whether you're willing or not, we're one." Tianxi was really about to suffocate. Right now, she had regained some control over her body, but she could only helplessly move Puppeteer's steel-like arm. She struggled with her legs. Apart from that, she couldn't do anything else. Puppeteer lifted Tianxi's slender neck. His footsteps were light as he returned to his original position. During this process, Tianxi struggled with her hands and feet at first, but she quickly ran out of strength. Her body went limp, and her eyes were filled with despair. At this time, Puppeteer's gaze had already turned to Luo Nan. Even though Luo Nan was still half-squatting at the edge of the viewing platform, not even turning his body around, Puppeteer's eyes behind his diving goggles were firmly fixed on Luo Nan. He wouldn't relax in the slightest. As for Black Beetle, he stood in front of Heavenly Ocean Lake with a cold expression. He blocked the only path to rescue Tianxi. Even so, Puppeteer still felt that it wasn't too safe. He continued, "I must admit that we underestimated your abilities, Mr. Luo Nan. We underestimated your transcendent mental attack. Our plans were ruined. So, we learned our lesson and decided to calmly chat and discuss things. We'll solve the problem. For the sake of ensuring this, I specifically made a safety wire. Thank you for your cooperation, Beauty. Right now, I have a bit of a connection with her on the mental plane. Any experience I receive will be fairly shared with her. In terms of endurance, I have some self-confidence that I can surpass this delicate beauty. An attack that's enough to defeat me has a high chance of defeating the other first. So, right now, I can only hope that the relationship between the two of you is sufficiently close." Having said this, Puppeteer turned to look at Tianxi. "Speaking of which, Beauty, have you two slept together yet?" "That's better if you haven't. Perhaps Mr. Luo Nan will feel that it's a pity." Puppeteer obviously hoped to receive a response from Luo Nan after his excellent performance, but Shuelei only sent him a gaze of loathing. The main character, Luo Nan, still maintained his original posture. He had even retracted his apologetic arm. It was unknown whether it was due to the effects of his injuries, or whether it was due to his disdain for his defeated subordinate. Puppeteer sighed. He had no choice but to urge Luo Nan, "Mr. Luo Nan, it's best if we don't waste any more time. Even if the police are idiots, they should come back to their senses by now. Everyone should resolve this as soon as possible and go home. That would be excellent." Luo Nan still didn't respond. "TSK, are all youngsters this cold these days? Then allow me to warm things up first. I'll play a little trick with my temporary beauty partner." A smile returned to Puppeteer's face. He raised his arm horizontally, placing Tianxi above the water's surface. After breaking through the tempered glass at the bottom of the pool, the Heavenly Ocean Lake will probably be the deepest swimming pool in the world. It's 800 meters deep. I have a feeling that the beauty partner next to me has pretty good swimming skills. She's enough to deal with those cute little kids, middle-aged friends, and older friends. Why don't we give it a try first? Tianxi had already given up on struggling, but as Puppeteer's words entered her ears, the strength in his hand mercilessly increased. He forcefully squeezed out what little potential she had, forcing her to struggle with her hands and feet. She was unable to speak, and her originally beautiful pupils rolled upwards. "Excellent. Beautiful, you have quite the camera feel." Puppeteer laughed even more happily. His hand casually swayed a few times, causing Tianxi to struggle even more painfully. Let us officially begin. The first act of the hero saving the beauty, action. The water of the heavenly ocean lake splashed as soon as Puppeteer's words fell. A terrifying shadow broke through the water's surface, leaping 6 to 7 meters into the air. It brushed past the soles of Tianxi's feet, and its long tail lashed out. It took the opportunity to slice off one of Tianxi's high heels, and the other fell down amidst her struggle. My other partner is quite protective of the fairer sex. However, I'll tell it that the next step is your delicate little feet. Do you want them to be symmetrical? The ice-cold water vapor and the scorching killing intent assaulted her at the same time. Tianxi could no longer hold herself back, and tears poured down her face. She cried noiselessly just like that, and the barrier of her willpower completely collapsed. At the edge of the viewing platform, Luo Nan's eyes were still closed, but his eyelids trembled twice. He exerted strength with great difficulty to support himself against the protective glass. He slowly stood up, turned around, and faced the two fiends head-on, but he still didn't open his mouth. Black Beetle turned his head and locked gazes with Puppeteer when he saw Luo Nan's situation. Both of them thought of the word backlash in their minds. Black Beetle then chuckled, "You're also trash as a director. Are we still in the era of silent films? You're just doing voiceovers. Where's the dubbing?" Puppeteer didn't mind. He gave a light praise, "Good idea." Puppeteer loosened his grip a bit as soon as he finished speaking, allowing Tianxi's sobs to pass through her airway with great difficulty. They squeezed out strands by strands. Tianxi's oppressive breath of despair pierced through the sound of the heavenly ocean lake's water. It entered Shui Lei's ears intermittently, causing his teeth to creak. However, Zhang Yingying had given him orders time and time again that he absolutely could not act impulsively. This was to prevent Black Beetle and Puppeteer from taking advantage of a loophole. Shui Lei had no other choice but to grit his teeth. Luo Nan, on the other hand, maintained a calm expression even though his eyes were closed and blood was flowing. He could even be said to be callous. The situation was still deadlocked. Puppeteer had a big headache when faced with this master who wouldn't be moved by force or persuasion. In the end, time stood on the opposing side in Xia City. Puppeteer could only confront Luo Nan while using his own channels to contact him and ask for advice. A few seconds later, he snapped his fingers. "How about this? Let's change methods. Beauty, don't cry. Let me ask you something. This callous boy in front of us, were you on a date just now? Now he's crying his eyes blind. Can you tell me?" Tianxi's willpower had collapsed. She thought she was dead. How could she respond? Puppeteer shook his head. "How about this? For the sake of fairness, I'll tell you a secret first. Our other partner." As he spoke, the mutant devil ray broke through the surface of the water once more. It leaped into the air, but it didn't fall according to the laws of physics. Instead, it resisted gravity and floated beneath the dome, circling around Tianxi's body. "Our partner can actually fly. This way, he can use his large mouth to meticulously grind away the skin and flesh of your little foot bit by bit. He can slowly chomp down. It's better for digestion. So, let's work together a bit more?" As he spoke, the devil ray's long tail of electricity had already wrapped around Tianxi's calf. It hooked onto her stockings a bit, coiled up, and gradually tightened. Tianxi felt the sensation of a snake coiling around her calf. There was even the numbing power of electricity. Her entire body trembled, and the gurgling sound of her throat mixed with her hoarse sobs. She just wanted to faint. But under Puppeteer's control, this became an extravagant hope. "Pay attention to the time," Puppeteer reminded her one last time. Tianxi's thoughts were in complete chaos. Fear ruled over everything. It was like the claws of a demon probing into her brain and rummaging. Whatever was inside, it would be pulled out. Because of Gear. Gear is Senior Sister Qingwen's masterpiece. You can see it here. Gear? That's the society building we went to first, right? Puppeteer tilted his head and continued to ask, "Senior Sister Qingwen? Who's that?" "It's junior brother Luo Nan's mother. I have a bit of an impression, but it doesn't seem to be of much use. Puppeteer spoke, but he glanced in Luo Nan's direction from the corner of his eye. Black Beetle stared in that direction with fixed eyes. He suddenly thought of something and contacted someone through his wristband. "Hello, you guys are still in gear, right? Oh right, it's that society building. Hurry up and prove it." "Idiot, isn't it easy to break something, set it on fire, or something?" As he spoke, he raised his arm horizontally and turned on the speaker function. He turned the volume to the maximum. A short second later, a loud crashing sound accompanied by crashing noises could be heard. There was no sign of it stopping. Chapter 306. Black Beetle knew that Luo Nan's current injuries were mostly due to the backlash of the secret technique. It had little to do with their methods. But this didn't affect Black Beetle's good mood. He climbed back onto the viewing platform, and his taut face relaxed for the first time. He hissed and laughed at his wristband. "Snake tongue. Beautiful snake tongue. I love you to death. Keep going. Keep going. Smash something that looks more memorable." A hoarse male voice came through the wristband's external speaker. "Don't try to get close to snake tongue if you don't have anything to do. I was the one who did it. Next, destroy the building and smash the outer wall. How about it?" "Tank, I love you too." Black Beetle was overly excited. His mouth was extremely greasy, and he smacked Luo Nan with the side of his face. He didn't conceal his delight in the slightest. "Oh, I'm sorry. I know this move is a bit childish, but it's effective. Especially when I look at your face. This is the expression I want." Luo Nan didn't say anything, but Shui Lei couldn't hold back from cursing. "You lowly scum. If you have the guts, let's fight face to face. I'll smash your head flat with 3 punches." Black Beetle's sinister gaze swiveled over. He grinned, revealing his deep red tongue and white teeth. A deep darkness seeped through. "That's quite unfortunate. I'm not interested right now. Right now, I just feel that it's a pity." Soon, Black Beetle's gaze switched, and it pierced Luo Nan's face like a poisonous dart. "It's a pity that the Hexa-ear malfunctioned today. Otherwise, we could do a live broadcast and see Tank's ability to demolish houses. Oh, I forgot. The wristband works too. Cloud City Water Village's network is quite stable." Luo Nan let out a light breath. He reached out to press down on Shui Lei, who was about to explode. He leaned back against the protective glass and spoke hoarsely, "Stop messing around. What do you guys want to know?" "Oh, you finally know how to respond." Black Beetle saw Luo Nan admit defeat. How could he not know that success was at hand? He felt a cool and refreshing air pour down from the top of his head. He felt refreshed to the core. But even so, his miserable experience on the 141st floor was like a volcano crater. It caused a disturbance in his heart. It wasn't enough. It wasn't enough. Black Beetle didn't make a sound. He just slowly smoothed out the tie in his hand and put it back on his neck. He flipped it left and right, gesturing it back and forth. During this time, the muffled sound of someone smashing the wall could be heard from the loudspeaker on the wristband. Even though Luo Nan was holding him down, Shui Lei was still hopping mad. "You son of a bitch. You came here specifically to destroy people." Black Beetle laughed involuntarily. "Don't be anxious. This is just the beginning. If I don't smash it for an hour or 2, I won't be able to see any effect. Ugh." Before he even finished speaking, Black Beetle's mouth suddenly couldn't close. The rest of his words were stuck in his throat. No matter how hard he tried, he couldn't close them. During this process, his face turned red, green, and purple. It was as if an invisible hand of a demon had covered his mouth and nose, isolating him from the outside world. A feeling of suffocation engulfed his entire body. After that, he felt the pain of needles piercing into his brain. His vision went black and red again, and his nerves went haywire. His entire body was stiff and trembling. Luo Nan's voice was like a cool breeze that brushed past her ear. "You actually didn't make a safety wire? How unfortunate." Black Beetle struggled in pain. His eyeballs were about to pop out of their sockets. He strove to mobilize his extraordinary power, But for some reason, the mental attack he suffered this time was 10 times more violent than last time. The aftermath of the attack didn't fade. He exerted force with great difficulty, but all he could do was touch his gaudy tie. He grabbed it with force, finding it hard to make any further movements. Puppeteer exploded with a shout from above Heavenly Ocean Lake. Mr. Luonan, everyone, don't act excessively. We can talk this out. Puppeteer saw Luonan turn his head to look at him just as he shouted. Puppeteer's blood-red eyes made contact with Luonan's heart go slightly cold. Luonan whispered, "What do you mean by excessively?" Mirror him. Puppeteer adjusted his mood and forced a smile. "There's no need for us to be so intense. This is just a routine investigation. Look, I haven't harmed a single hair on this beauty from beginning to end. I was just playing a joke. I was just trying to scare her, right? Then I smashed my mother's masterpiece. That's..." Luonan lowered his head slightly. His body movements were full of exhaustion. It was as if he was organizing his words. "Black Beetle doesn't have the attitude to communicate with me normally. Actually, even now, I don't know what you guys want to do. There's only fighting and killing, humiliation, and damage." Puppeteer cursed in his mind. He cursed Luonan, and he cursed Black Beetle. Black Beetle had seen the series of conflicts from start to finish. Luonan's claim that he didn't know was certainly nonsense. However, it was an indisputable fact that Black Beetle prioritized revenge over obtaining information. In fact, Puppeteer himself rather admired Black Beetle's behavior. On this point, the two of them had a common language. When all was said and done, they didn't take Luonan seriously in the beginning. They just wanted to deal with a half-crippled, half-grown child once they finished their defenses. Black Beetle's actions were excessively unbridled. Evil karma begets evil karma. In the end, Black Beetle had to swallow the karma. Puppeteer was stronger than Black Beetle in one aspect. He was more nimble. Puppeteer knew that he needed to change his methods. He discussed things with the people behind him, and he revealed a sunny smile. "Mr. Luonan, we are both members of the society. I believe that we can carry out a calm and peaceful exchange. I've already told them to stop over at Gear. If the exchange goes smoothly, not only will they withdraw at first notice, but they will also send the best engineering team to restore all the damage done. They will also pay $1 million in compensation. Are you satisfied with this sincerity?" Luonan didn't respond, but he didn't refuse. Puppeteer felt that the change in trajectory was a success. His smile grew more and more brilliant. "Mr. Luonan, both sides are expressing sincerity. Look at Black Beetle." The corner of Luonan's lips twitched. "Is he affecting our exchange?" Puppeteer was a bit startled, but the smile on his face remained the same. "No, he's not affected." Po. It was true that Black Beetle's entire body was stiff, but his mind was still clear. His eyes and ears were still useful. Puppeteer's words all fell into his ears. This nearly caused his heart to explode. He exerted all the strength in his body to twist his body, but he lost his sense of balance under the mental attack. He didn't twist his body. Instead, he fell down, his face smashing heavily into the ground. Since Puppeteer had made up his mind, he didn't even spare a glance in that direction. He just muttered to himself, wondering if the safety wire in his hand was truly effective. Luonan spoke at this time. "Speak. What do you guys want to know?" Puppeteer composed himself and calculated the time. He smiled and tossed out a series of words. On the night of October 7th, the Society's Xia City branch clashed with the Order of Justice at Frost River Reality on Fudong Main Street in the city center. Branch President Ouyang Chen intervened in the later stages of the conflict. He erected the so-called logic world. From that point on, many things are unclear. This is disadvantageous to headquarters in restoring the truth of the matter and upholding justice for everyone. Luonan also laughed. "You guys should go ask President Ouyang. 1 for personal gain, 2 for public gain. One-sided testimonies are very hard to accept. We learned through special channels that Mr. Luonan, by chance, entered the logic world through an out-of-body state. You are an extremely important witness. So we want to ask. What special channels?" Luonan was very curious. Puppeteer's face finally turned cold. Mr. Luonan, no matter how you say it, this is an investigation by headquarters. I hope that everyone can correct their attitudes. Don't create any side issues and don't want to see consequences to appear. Luonan nodded. He no longer interrupted. Puppeteer stared at Luonan's face and spoke in a deep voice. We want to know what you saw in the logic world. Narrow down the scope a bit. What did Ouyang Chen do? What did En Wang of the Order of Justice do? Why did he do this? Then he disappeared without a trace. Where did he go? There are many things that I don't know. Tell us everything you know. This will take a long time. Mr. Luonan. Puppeteer took a deep breath. His fingers exerted more pressure on Tianxi's slender neck, using her painful struggle to express his mood. Since we all know that this will take a long time, why not be a bit more nimble? Actually, Xue Lei was itching to give it a try at this time, but he was stopped once more. Luonan leaned against the protective glass and muttered to himself for a moment. He said, if you want to know En Wang's actions back then, you must understand what the logic world created by President Ouyang is. Puppeteer raised his voice. Mr. Luo, our time is precious. Before Puppeteer's voice could fall, an order came from behind. Let him continue. This information is very valuable. Puppeteer's face twitched, and he instantly switched to a smile. So, please be concise and comprehensive. Luonan ignored the change in Puppeteer's expression. He just minded his own business and spoke several seconds later. If you view the mental plane as countless layers of fluttering cloth. Puppeteer cursed inwardly, F***CK. He had no choice but to interrupt Luonan once more. The world recognizes that the mental plane is divided into 3 zones, 1 region and 1 domain. Where did your countless layers come from? Luonan did not speak. He raised his eyelids, and his blood-red eyes faced Puppeteer. Perhaps he could not see clearly, but he maintained this posture until Puppeteer felt that he was an incurable idiot. Puppeteer's eyelids twitched. Mr. Luo? Luonan had kept his eyes open for too long. His eyes burned with pain, so he simply closed his eyes and adjusted his breathing. 5 or 6 seconds passed before he said, through the formatting theory created by my grandfather, I observe the mental world. It's just like that. Do you need me to explain what formatting theory is? The relationship between the self, society, and heaven and earth format should be relatively easy for ability users to understand. I remember that President Ouyang did some elaborations on self-logic and secular logic. You guys aren't so stubborn that you don't know anything about this, right? 4 or 5 new concepts popped up one after another, causing Puppeteer to be a bit dazed. Luckily, he quickly received instructions from the rear. He corrected the direction of the topic. We can postpone the theory lesson. Right now, you can directly describe it. First, what do you know about the logic world? Second, what is the result of En Wang being in the logic world? Then I won't use a curtain to describe it. Luonan raised his head slightly and adopted a posture of reminiscence. The logic world. Now that I think about it, it's probably a part of the heaven and earth format that was forcefully dismantled and pieced together into a temporary production line. In terms of composition, it is a part of the heaven and earth format. In terms of rules, the self format is the yardstick. The heaven and earth format is temporarily included in the scope of the self format, using a small gear to drive a large gear. The coupling structure here is truly exquisite. Format your sister. Gear your mother. Puppeteer felt that his ability to understand had been insulted. He wanted to immediately snap Tianxi's neck, but Luonan's voice drifted over just as this thought passed through his mind. Chapter 307. The mutant devil ray circled back and forth in the heavenly ocean lake. Its developed wing-like pectoral fins stirred up wave after wave in the lake. It looked a bit impatient, just like Puppeteer's current mood. The smile on his face was still there, but most of his muscles were stiff. At this time, a low and cold voice entered his ears from behind, but he did not know where it came from. Could it be that you really hope to dig out something right now and obtain a great merit? There really is a problem with your comprehension ability. Puppeteer's face turned hot, and he wanted to curse in his heart. But just as he thought this, the voice from behind seemed to see through his internal organs. Instead of cursing silently, it's better to think of a way to continue attracting the opponent's attention. Move your mouth. Puppeteer secretly clenched his teeth, but he had just been reprimanded. There was still support behind it, so his heart was able to twist a bit. He slightly moved the muscles on his face and did his best to reply calmly. Mr. Luo Nan can continue. As he spoke, Puppeteer confirmed the time once more. He also confirmed that the recording was on. He made up his mind. No matter what Luo Nan said, he would just let Luo Nan speak. He would just ignore it and go back to analyze it in detail. Formatting theory, right? What grandfather and grandmother? When I get back, I'll make you reveal the color of your entire family's underwear. Luo Nan seemed to truly believe Puppeteer's words. His eyes remained closed and he spoke expressionlessly, then I'll continue speaking. I just finished talking about the logic world. Next, I can describe En Weng's situation. Finish my ass. Puppeteer's gaze looked down behind the enormous diving goggles. He did his utmost to filter out all information related to Luo Nan, but even so, Luo Nan's voice still penetrated through. It was simply like the whispers of a devil, stirring up Puppeteer's emotions layer by layer. I'm not clear on what En Weng is doing. I can only say what I observe and understand. You must know that the levels of the heaven and earth format are extremely rich. The interference between the material plane and the mental plane can form countless kinds of order frames. Oh, you definitely don't understand this part. Fuck. The Devil Ray echoed Puppeteer's emotions. Within the heavenly ocean lake, the Devil Ray forcefully flapped its pectoral fins and wings once more, creating a rumbling explosion. Water sprayed everywhere, drenching most of Tianxi's skirt and stockings. However, she was already completely unresponsive. Puppeteer wanted to kill. Right now, he was incomparably convinced that Luo Nan had done this on purpose. That kid had seized on the fact that Luo Nan didn't understand, to torment and ridicule him back and forth. All right, did Luo Nan really think that Luo Nan was a Buddha who wouldn't get angry or angry? Luo Nan stopped talking, but he didn't even open his eyes. He calmly waited for the noise created by the Devil Ray to pass. You want to blow the fuse? Maybe the kid was waiting for you to do that. At that time, my useless protection spell won't be able to protect you. Luo Nan didn't open his mouth, but the rear darkly warned Puppeteer. In the end, Puppeteer concluded with an ice-cold order. Don't let me be distracted by you again. After being reprimanded again, even Puppeteer's anger turned into ashes. He suddenly came to a realization. What was Luo Nan's goal in this round of taunting and stabbing? If what the rear said was really to provoke him to cut off the safety wire himself, then their intentions were really deep. On the surface, Puppeteer had said that he and Tianxi shared mental attacks, but Luo Nan could presumably see that the connection between the two was actually unequal after these few rounds. Tianxi was being tormented to the point of hovering between life and death, while Puppeteer was quite relaxed. In reality, even if Luo Nan's mental attack came, Puppeteer had the confidence to block the first wave. He relied on Tianxi in his hands. She was a good conductor. She was enough to minimize the damage to himself. And if he made a mistake and cut off his own path of retreat, what would happen to him? Just look at Black Beetle in front of him. He was a living example. Many complex thoughts flashed through Puppeteer's mind, but a thin layer of cold sweat covered his back. He immediately loosened his fingers and even sent a bit of vital energy into Tianxi to avoid giving her more pressure. He also helped her smooth out her blood and energy. He was afraid that his emotions would be too extreme and he would really strangle the safety wire on the spot, pushing the situation into an unsalvageable situation. He still had to explain to Luo Nan, sorry. Mutants aren't easy to control. I didn't interrupt your train of thought, did I? Luo Nan was silent for a moment. His voice became a bit deeper. I coined the term order frame. It's normal that you don't understand it. So ask yourself, do you need further explanation? Puppeteer stared at Luo Nan's face. The more he looked, the more he felt that he had dodged a calamity. Otherwise, what would he explain? Would he return the favor with a plum? He was just trying to cover it up. Youngsters these days had ruthless hearts. Puppeteer's mind relaxed and tightened. From the looks of it, Luo Nan still harbored thoughts of direct conflict with them. Perhaps the society's reinforcements were about to arrive. Puppeteer needed to be a bit more careful and make more preparations. Speaking of which, the rear wasn't ready yet? In any case, Puppeteer adjusted his mentality. He accepted his fate. He wouldn't get pregnant just by listening to it. What was there to be afraid of? He put on his signature sunny smile. Of course, it's best if you can explain. I want it. Why wouldn't I want it? Luo Nan felt extremely exhausted after going through so many things. He let out a breath and gasped for a bit before continuing. I came up with this term. The source was the inspiration provided by Child. Child. Puppeteer adjusted his mentality. His utilitarian heart gradually faded, and his mind became much more nimble. He raised an eyebrow upon hearing Luo Nan's words. The ears of truth? Luo Nan didn't respond to this topic. He followed the prescribed order and continued to speak. Child once said that observation is order. According to my understanding, it refers to using one's own logic to comb through the myriad things of the world that one observes, establishing laws of order that are easy for one to understand and utilize. And our existence itself is the product of a certain natural order. Here, the order of the subjective and the objective, the order of the mental and the material, interferes. It is like two gears biting together. If the coupling structure is relatively stable and the operation is effective, then it is a gear set with relatively independent functions. It is an order frame. An order frame can be large or small. Speaking small, it can be our own cultivation method, and it can even be subdivided. Speaking large, the myriad things of the world can be included within it. Connections can also occur between the various order frames. The eyes behind the diving goggles blinked. Perhaps it was because his mind had calmed down, or perhaps it was because he had a clear reference, but Puppeteer suddenly felt that Luo Nan's words were quite reasonable if he cast aside the descriptions of gears and formats and used terms that were easier for Puppeteer to understand. The order frame was like the self-logic of an ability user. Oh, this was Ouyang Chen's concept. Puppeteer preferred the more fanciful term of domain. On the side of headquarters, there were powerful people who proposed that the material world should be regularized. They wanted to use the perspective of pure supernatural power to reinterpret the entire universe. At the very least, they needed to leave a place for the mental plane. Of course, the 50 years of rapid development of the inner world was far too immature when compared to the profound and complex physical system that humanity had developed over 1,000 years. This argument could only be used as a form of motion. It could only be listened to for the time being. Were kids these days considering such complex issues? Or was formatting theory really that valuable? He would have to dig deeper when he got back. They're really chatting? Zhang Yingying was dizzy from listening through the three-way communications. She could not help but shout, "Don't get carried away. This fellow puppeteer is very sinister. Hey, I think I heard someone say snake tongue just now. It's snake tongue, right?" Luo Nan acted as if he did not hear her. He continued to talk loudly. It was Xue Lei who confirmed in a low voice, "It's snake tongue without a doubt. There's also a tank. He's over at Gear right now. He's threatening Nanster. That sinister woman has quite the reputation. She's a true curse mage with an inheritance. Holy crap. I just checked. She's not in the investigation team at all. She snuck over." Zhang Yingying slapped the steering wheel again. Right now, the investigation team's leader and deputy leader are both under control. But the other side may not know about this variable, snake tongue. We must notify the people coming over to provide support. Otherwise, we'll just be sending ourselves to our deaths. Xue Lei's heart tightened a bit. Is this person very powerful? She's been an architect-level character for a long time, but she's a bit like Nanster. Her body isn't too good, so she lives in seclusion and rarely shows herself. But she specializes in curses, And she also understands torture and assassination. She's extremely sinister. When it comes to harming people, she can leave her soul body and travel 1,000 kilometers in a single night to another city. Oh my God. Zhang Ying stopped slapping the steering wheel and instead slapped her thigh. Be careful of this person. You must be careful. You guys are talking a bunch of nonsense over there, but if she's in an out-of-body state, she can go from gear to ocean sky cloud city in a single thought. Shui Lei's scalp went numb when he heard this. He immediately opened his mouth to warn Luo Nan, Nanster. The words just left his mouth when Luo Nan's back borrowed a bit of strength from the protective glass. He stood up straight and spoke softly. You might not be able to understand it if you just say it with your mouth. This way, I can do a demonstration. Puppeteer keenly sensed the minute changes on Luo Nan's side, especially Shui Lei. It was clear that Shui Lei was communicating with someone and knew some information. Puppeteer's heart tightened a bit, and his body quickly entered a battle-ready state. The smile on his face didn't change. Demonstration? I think what you said just now was quite good. I already understand the concept of the order frame. It's actually a domain, a small universe, a law of heaven and earth. Am I right? Wrong. Luo Nan responded in a straightforward and efficient manner. The core I just spoke of isn't actually in the order frame. Instead, it lies in coupling. The former has a myriad of names, but its source lies in the myriad of connections between each other. My mother classified these connections as coupling. I think it's quite appropriate. In the end, Puppeteer's blood-red eyes opened into a slit. Deep darkness and stillness were mixed within the blood-red color. His gaze fell upon the fallen figure in front of the heavenly ocean lake. The one who's playing dead is a very typical example. Many black beetles who had not moved at all felt their bodies jolt. Their scalps went numb. They felt Shui Lei, who was in front of them, and Puppeteer, who was behind them. Their gazes were like knives as they sliced over. Chapter 308. Black Beetle really was playing dead. Though Luo Nan's second mental attack was much stronger than the first, there was still an end to it. After enduring the most painful period, Black Beetle regained his soul and regained his ability to move. However, Black Beetle could no longer find his position in the current situation. He saw it clearly. This group of people from headquarters were all unreliable, cold-blooded people. After he made a move against Luo Nan, he severed his friendship with the Xia City branch. He did a pirate-style jump and finally smashed into the sea. Right now, Black Beetle hated Luo Nan to the core. He hated Puppeteer to the core, and his teeth itched. Presumably, both sides felt the same way about him. Black Beetle didn't know how to deal with this awkward situation. He could only lie on the ground and play dead. He thought about how to adapt to the situation. It would be best if the sandpiper and the clam could fight and the fisherman could profit from it. But if not, he would retreat unscathed. Who would have thought that Luo Nan would talk about those inexplicable concepts right when the two sides were about to completely forget about him? Then Luo Nan picked him up in passing. What happened next? The demonstration caused a chill to run down Black Beetle's back. Luo Nan didn't have any good intentions. Should Black Beetle continue to play dead? Or should he rise up in revolt? Black Beetle was so conflicted that he wanted to hit the ground. Luo Nan didn't care about Black Beetle's reaction at all. His voice didn't even pause. From what I can see, Black Beetle's gear set, order frame, has a total of 4 gears inside and out. In the middle is a large gear formed from the structure of body and soul. Practically all power must circulate through it. Every ability user must possess such a central hub. This was relatively simple, and Puppeteer had no trouble understanding it. However, Puppeteer's attention was a bit off. His ice-cold gaze swept back and forth over Black Beetle's motionless body. Needless to say, Puppeteer believed 80% of Black Beetle's story of Luo Nan playing dead. Puppeteer had let Black Beetle down earlier, but since he had offended Black Beetle, there was no point in thinking too much about it. Puppeteer was more concerned about how to deal with this variable. Black Beetle has an outer gear aside from the central gear. That is, the 27 beetles scattered on the viewing platform and the 6 beetles in his necktie. The precise number Luo Nan spoke drew Puppeteer's attention back. Luo Nan gave a rough sense. The numbers scattered on the platform should be about the same. However, that gaudy necktie was Black Beetle's core tool. It was always hidden tightly. How did Luo Nan confirm it? After hesitating for a moment, Puppeteer decided not to take it seriously. Luo Nan continued to speak. The 33 beetles appear to be scattered, but they are actually intimately connected through the activation of soul strength. They can form another gear structure at any time. This method should be more flexible, and it wouldn't matter if he threw a few of them. However, the material was relatively brittle, and if he really used it, it would probably only have enough power for one attack. Also, his necktie looks pretty good. It should be polished with gears often. What I mean is that he often uses interference force to communicate with his chi. It can be used as a medium for activation, and it's not that fragile, so it should be more practical. It's insect explosion and poison sting. The former is a corrosive poisonous mist, while the latter is a killing move of the flexible sword style. They are Black Beetle's 2 secret skills. Zhang Yingying's voice passed through the wristband to supplement Luo Nan's words. It allowed the stupefied Xue Lei to hear it a bit more clearly. At the same time, Xue Lei could tell that Zhang Yingying's voice was a bit shaky at the end. What the hell? What the hell? Black Beetle was unable to hear Puppeteer's thoughts. He was also unable to hear Zhang Yingying's explanation, but he didn't need to. Even though he was unfamiliar with descriptions like gear and order frame, what Luo Nan said was something that had fused into his blood. It was the foundation of his foothold in this world. Now that Luo Nan had pointed them out one by one, it would be strange if he felt comfortable. Black Beetle was instinctively unwilling to believe it. No, this isn't logical. Oh, think about it. My information is confidential, but the society is a place with openings on all sides. Zhang Yingying and that mechanical woman know my ins and outs. This little bastard probably knew the result long ago, so he used that so-called order frame of his to wrap things up and mess with my mind? Or maybe this kid doesn't care if I'm awake or not. He just wants to use me to divert Puppeteer's attention? The more Black Beetle thought, the more suspicious he became. The more he thought, the angrier he became. He was conflicted in his mind for quite a while, but he still clenched his teeth and made a decision. He would deal with the myriad of changes by remaining unchanged. In any case, his face was stuck to the ground. He might as well just leave his face on the ground. He would just treat Luo Nan's words as farts, and he wouldn't move. At this time, Puppeteer took the initiative to ask Luo Nan, "Didn't you say there are 4 gears? There are only 2. The third gear is a bit different from the first 2. It is independent from Black Beetle's body and soul structure. It's called coupling, but it's more like a parasitic. Parasitism can also be considered a type of coupling. I think it counts." Luo Nan's words were unclear, but they nailed Black Beetle to the ground the instant they entered his ears. Impossible. Black Beetle felt as if someone had used an ice blade to cut open the back of his neck. A bone-piercing chill and pain spread from the center of his spine to the 2 ends. In the blink of an eye, even his toes were covered in ice. Others might be confused, but Black Beetle's mind was crystal clear. What Luo Nan was talking about was his life bug. The source of his ability was a mutant beetle. He had accidentally swallowed it into his stomach in his early years, and it fused with his extraordinary power to build a unique ability structure. He had nurtured it for many years, and the mutant demon bug had already been deeply rooted within his body. It had become the most important foundation of his ability. This was the #1 secret of his life. He had always kept it rotten in his stomach, never mentioning it to anyone. How could Luo Nan possibly know? Unless this kid had a pair of clairvoyant eyes that could see through his internal organs and see through all of his secrets. It was also at this time that Black Beetle recalled the feeling of being transparent and bright, unobstructed and unobstructed. The wind blew through the gaps, and the light shone on the earth. Was there a pair of incorporeal eyes behind this unfathomable sense of transparency? Staring at him all the time, not leaving a single hair behind? Black Beetle's heart beat wildly with this thought. He slapped the ground across his chest, and the aura on his body fluctuated. Everyone present had keen senses. Naturally, it was impossible to hide it from them. This kid is really playing dead. Shui Lei had a straightforward temperament. He shouted out, "Go F*** King die." Even though Black Beetle's face was pressed against the ice-cold ground, it was as if a fire had been ignited at this moment. An explosion rang in Black Beetle's mind, and a buzzing noise similar to tinnitus poured into his mind. This noise was mixed with emotions of fear and fury. It was like a rising flame, incinerating his plan of playing dead into ashes. He suddenly bent his elbows and straightened his body. Whether it was his body or his consciousness, his first reaction was to charge forward and tear apart the demon that had exposed the greatest secret of his life. Shui Lei had been moving forward by half a body's length from beginning to end. Now he took a diagonal step, blocking Luo Nan behind his broad shoulders. Speed wasn't Black Beetle's strong suit, but strange shifting was engraved in his bones. Even though his mind was a mess right now, Black Beetle still instinctively chose to move when faced with Shui Lei's rock-solid stance. With a few slight movements, Black Beetle shifted Shui Lei's center of gravity, and he saw the face behind Shui Lei. A small portion of Luo Nan's face was revealed. He only had one eye, and only a slit could be seen in his eye socket. The deep red color absorbed all the light, and it was pitch black. It transformed into an incorporeal pressure that pressed against Black Beetle's chest. There's still the fourth gear. I just put it on not too long ago. Before Puppeteer could finish speaking, a gale rose on the half-open viewing platform, and Shui Lei and Black Beetle collided together. Explosions rang out one after another, and Luo Nan's hoarse and weak voice drifted away. It was far away, and Puppeteer might not be able to hear it clearly unless he focused his mind. Puppeteer wasn't sure if Luo Nan was talking to him or not, but it sounded very much like Luo Nan's tone. The fourth gear doesn't belong to him at all. It comes from the outside. At first, it served a defensive function. It was like a lampshade shielding against mental attacks. But right now, the coupling method has changed. It has changed from a lampshade to a lasso. Black Beetle grunted and retreated. Shui Lei's close combat ability was at least a level higher than his own. Black Beetle had no chance of victory in a direct confrontation. Plus, Luo Nan's voice lingered by his ear without dispersing. Luo Nan's words pierced his mind over and over again, making it hard for Black Beetle to continue fighting. Black Beetle shifted his body greatly to the side. He no longer exposed his back to Puppeteer. Instead, he formed a long and narrow triangle before stopping. He gasped for breath slightly. His gaze first stared at Luo Nan, then turned to Puppeteer. Then, his gaze flitted across the various shadows of the platform. His mind wavered like his gaze. As for Luo Nan and Puppeteer, the gazes cast over from both sides seemed to be quite subtle. Intense unease and fear materialized, rolling within Black Beetle's chest and abdomen. Snake tongue. Give me a reply. What responded to him was a hissing sound. It was quiet and dark, like the hissing of a viper in the darkness. Scales slithered. Black Beetle was overwhelmed with shock when he wanted to move. A terrifying feeling of numbness rose from his abdomen all the way up, drowning his internal organs and drowning his throat. The power of the numbness continued to rise. A buzzing sound pierced into his brain. Black Beetle's eyeballs bulged, and veins crawled over the whites of his eyes. His eyes were filled with fear and despair. This was his life bug. He had always carefully kept it within his abdomen, keeping it separate from his internal organs. But now, the demon bug had gone out of control. The mutant demon bug's terrifying instincts awoke under the influence of the strange hissing sound. It bit its way through Black Beetle's intestines, stomach, chest, throat, and all the way to the brain. Black Beetle wanted to struggle, but his opponent didn't give him any chance. As the feeling of numbness and the buzzing sound of the bug entered his brain, his consciousness darkened. His spiritual light was lost forever. The violent wind masked Luo Nan's long and drawn-out sigh. Luo Nan didn't want to save Black Beetle. He just wanted to give Black Beetle a warning and trip up his opponent's secret plan. However, he never thought that Black Beetle's methods would be so ruthless. Black Beetle had directly awakened the mutant bug parasitizing within Black Beetle's abdomen. The roles of host and guest were reversed. Black Beetle died rigidly in the wind. He was thoroughly dead. Right now, his body only existed as the exoskeleton of the mutant demon bug. He was tossed about at will. Xue Lei wasn't too sure. He sized up Black Beetle with vigilance and asked Luo Nan, "Is he?" Luo Nan nodded. Before Xue Lei could finish speaking, Black Beetle opened his mouth. "Yasakasha." Black Beetle wiggled his lips, tongue, and throat. The range was very clear, but his voice was vague and hoarse. When he used too much strength, a green spike even protruded from his mouth. It even swayed left and right. Chapter 309. No matter how fast I rushed, I was still half an hour late. I was enlightened in anger to change the title. This is a contradiction between the details of the outline. Everyone, please don't mind. Xue Lei was extraordinarily courageous and insightful when he saw this situation that went against normal aesthetics. His human instincts made his scalp go numb. He couldn't help but shiver. What kind of monster is this? Luo Nen didn't answer. On the other hand, Black Beetle turned his body a bit to face the two. He continued to speak from his throat. Pashasha. What Aka means is sorry. Black Beetle enunciated these words perfectly. If one were to close one's eyes, one wouldn't be able to tell the difference between before and after. Even if one were to open one's eyes, it would still be the same person, as long as one could ignore the uncomfortable details. Right now, Black Beetle's behavior was one of incomprehensible restraint and politeness. His hands were a bit stiff as they protected his lower abdomen. They were slightly crossed, and his head was slightly lowered. He really did look like he was apologizing. Acting ahead of time has caused many links to be missed. The transformation still requires a process. Please forgive me. If it wasn't for the unnatural twitching of this fellow's facial muscles, if it wasn't for the fact that insect-like limbs would pop out from his mouth, nose, and even ears from time to time, Black Beetle's current behavior was simply like that of a well-trained etiquette officer. Comparing the front and back, comparing the inside and the outside, gave off a strange, ghastly feeling that made one's heart go cold. Combined with Zhang Yingying's previous warning, Xue Lei reacted to what was going on. He adjusted his position once more, shielding Luo Nen behind his broad shoulders. He faced the thing that was neither man nor insect directly and growled. "Snake tongue. Before the transformation is complete, I really do need to deal with the two of you. However, personally speaking, I hope to engage in a few beneficial exchanges with Lord Luo during this short period of time." The one before him was Black Beetle on the outside, a mutated demon insect on the inside, and a bizarre existence whose will belonged to Snake Tongue. It spoke in a seemingly courteous and frank manner. At the same time, its stiff body leaned forward slightly. It was as if it had adapted to the pronunciation. It quickly became smooth and made a deep bow. It had an extremely respectful appearance. Lord Luo's theory is very enlightening. It has broken through a barrier that has perplexed me for many years. I have learned much. Xue Lei stood between the two. For a moment, he felt that he was quite unnecessary. This was indeed the case. Snake Tongue borrowed Black Beetle's mouth to speak and move. It was just a formality. Her telepathic thoughts treated Xue Lei as nothing. She only stared at Luo Nan. I believe that Lord Luo should have his own set of gears as well, one that is also carrying out a wondrous coupling effect to see through the laws of life. But it doesn't work very well, does it? As he spoke, Black Beetle's face twitched in a way that didn't match his tone at all. A split second later, his two eyeballs silently shattered. Blood splashed out, and the dark green calicary protruded from his eye sockets before retracting. Amidst this scene that made one's eyelids jump crazily, Black Beetle's face revealed a smile. The gaps between his pitch-black teeth were filled with an inhuman aura of death. Gears are extraordinary, But the human body is frail. The more complex and mysterious the coupling, the greater the pressure. How much longer can Lord Luo hold on? Luo Nan stood behind Shui Lei. He felt a bit uncomfortable on his face. The blood flowing from his eyes was about to dry up. He used the cuffs of his white coat to wipe his face twice. This small action affected the nerves on his face, bringing him a stinging pain. It was as if a small knife was scraping against his face. He exhaled, doing his best to maintain a calm expression on his face. He spoke softly. Is it because of this that you simply killed Black Beetle to reduce the complexity of the coupling and make it easier to control? Lord Luo's words are more apparent once the meaning is clear. Snake Tongue responded through Black Beetle's body, which was riddled with holes. Right now, she had already caught up to Luo Nan's logic of thought. She could come and go as she pleased. Allow me to express my disagreement. Lord Luo's assertion that Black Beetle is dead is a bit rash. I have only made some changes to his mode of existence. According to Lord Luo's words, I have transformed the central gear into something else. Black Beetle's body twitched violently just as Snake Tongue finished speaking. His entire body shrunk into a ball, and he fell to his knees on the ground. His entire body trembled. Shui Lei subconsciously crossed his arms, pushing Luo Nan back a bit. He was afraid that Black Beetle would stir up some other demonic moth. And at the same time Luo Nan moved, a faint and fine incantation came from Black Beetle. The incantation mingled with the cold wind on the viewing platform and blew in all directions. Shui Lei didn't know if it was an illusion, but he felt that the wind on the platform had weakened. It was a thread too late. A series of soft explosions rang out from every region of the viewing platform. Shui Lei's ears trembled slightly. His gaze spun around, accurately capturing every point of explosion. He saw light green mist rise and fill the air in those places. 27 of them. They should be bugs controlled by Black Beetle. They all exploded. It's a bug explosion. Be careful of the nerve poison inside. It's very corrosive if it's stimulated through special techniques. Zhang Yingying had already learned of Snake Tongue's arrival from her wristband. She grew more and more restless, but she had to feign calmness for the sake of not letting these two rookies panic. She endured with great difficulty. Shui Lei's eyelids twitched wildly. It doesn't look like much, but they're coming from all directions. What's the meaning of this? Zhang Yingying was stupefied. Coming together? Luo Nan interjected. Snake Tongue is currently controlling the airflow on the platform. Leister, can you still climb the building while carrying me? No problem. Even if there was, Shui Lei would still have to overcome it. Then we'll... Forget it. We're a step too late. Luo Nan's voice grew hoarser. His body was indeed under enormous pressure. He grew weaker and weaker, but his mind grew brighter and brighter. It was just as Snake Tongue guessed. The gears formed a coupling relationship under Luo Nan's roughly formed order frame. Perhaps it wasn't smooth, but it was enough to give birth to a spiritual light that illuminated the inside and the outside. There was nothing it couldn't reach, so much so that it possessed astonishing foresight. Unfortunately, Luo Nan's lack of experience in fighting enemies meant that his reaction was a bit slower when facing Snake Tongue, a spellcaster with treacherous and unpredictable thoughts. The frigid airflow on the platform had already become tame and docile under the control of the fine incantation. It spun, sending the light green poisonous mist that was scattered all around. The mist pressed down on Luo Nan and Shui Lei's positions in layer upon layer. Looking at it from afar, it was as if fine muslin was coiled up. It floated in the air and didn't disperse. It converged into a curtain and surrounded the surroundings. It didn't even let the area outside the platform go. It sealed off Luo Nan and Shui Lei's paths of retreat. Shui Lei looked around, and the veins on his forehead throbbed. He had the mind to use the wind from his fists to break apart this layer of poisonous mist curtain, but he thought about Snake Tongue's marvelous wind control spell technique. He was afraid to shoot at the rat for fear of breaking the vases. He might not be afraid of this poisonous mist with his mastery of the talisman realm, but what about Luo Nan? It was impossible for Luo Nan's body to withstand this torment with his bones. Snake Tongue's move was played down, but it poked at their weak spot. What should they do now? Wait for the poison to evaporate? Don't look at this half-open platform. Snake Tongue's wind control technique made this place no different from a completely sealed room to them. This wasn't the end. Shui Lei's eyelids twitched again. He saw Black Beetle, who had just fallen to the ground twitching, slowly crawl up from the ground. Black Beetle's body was still a bit shaky, and his two eyes, which had already turned into bloody cavities, endlessly gushed out blood. His face was pierced by a few sharp insect limbs, but he still revealed a polite smile. The transformation is complete. I've made a fool of myself in front of Lord Luo. The masked smile on Black Beetle's face shattered with a bang before he finished speaking. What replaced it was hatred and insanity that warped to the extreme. The two bloody cavities on his face turned toward Luo Nan's direction. He gnashed his teeth and said, "You little bastard who hides under a woman's skirt. Go die!" The sudden change in style made Shui Lei's scalp explode. His eyes went blurry, and Black Beetle roared as he charged over. He directly charged through the light green poison screen and punched out head-on. The relatively stable poison screen was smashed into a chaotic whirlpool, and Shui Lei's nose was filled with a fishy smell. Shui Lei thought of Luo Nan behind him and flew into a sudden rage. His majestic body actually swelled a size in midair amidst his fierce shout. His body was like a giant, and his heavy fist smashed down. An explosive bang rang out, and Black Beetle flew back at a speed even faster than when he charged. The bones of his right arm had been forcefully smashed into 3 pieces by Shui Lei, and they were pressed down by the heavy fist. They twisted and collapsed back into his forehead, causing his skull to cave in. But the instant Black Beetle was blasted back, Black Beetle's left hand secretly tore off his tie. He took advantage of the situation and swung it across Shui Lei's chest noiselessly. It was as if Black Beetle's clothes had been cut by a sharp blade. They split open in an instant, and a white mark appeared on Black Beetle's chest. The mark quickly turned red and congealed with blood. It was on the verge of breaking, and it even penetrated with a hint of darkness. Shui Lei gritted his teeth without making a sound. He just stared unwaveringly at Black Beetle. Under normal circumstances, Black Beetle's brain would have burst open in exchange for Shui Lei's attack. Shui Lei would have won long ago. But the fellow in front of him had a warped face and cracked skull. What came out wasn't brain. Instead, it was half the body of an ugly demon insect. Black Beetle even grinned and laughed. Oh, the feeling of ventilation isn't bad. Why didn't I discover this before? Shui Lei's mind went cold. He actually didn't know if Black Beetle was standing on the side of him or the demon insect. What in the world was this fellow? Before Shui Lei could finish his thoughts, Black Beetle's expression changed again. His lips and teeth opened and closed, conveying Snake Tongue's will. Lord Luo, does this count as Black Beetle's death? Behind Shui Lei, Luo Nan's voice was low and hoarse, but it was still stable. It's just an incomplete soul. You've kneaded it into a wrath-like monster. That's one way of putting it. Snake Tongue didn't deny it. The scale of life and death is already fuzzy for us. You say death, I say life. Each has their own standards. But what I want to ask is this. If Lord Luo were to become like this, how would you feel at that time? Of course, I definitely won't treat him as crudely as I treated Black Beetle. I will use the most meticulous techniques to slowly knead him. I will make Lord Luo's soul my most precious collection. Under Snake Tongue's control, Black Beetle bowed over once more. The dark green beetle replaced the position of the brain within the cracked skull. It squirmed slightly. When the time comes, I will reconstruct a more suitable body for Lord Luo to place your dazzling soul. If we're lucky enough, we can often exchange and discuss ideas to perfect the order frame and other geniuses. This is my plan. Chapter 310. Luo Nan didn't respond to Snake Tongue's polite and respectful attitude through Black Beetle. He leaned against the protective glass. His eyelids drooped, and his breathing was rapid. He gave people the feeling that he was growing weaker. The 4 sides of the poison veil were truly fatal to a person with a terrible constitution like him. If he spoke a few more words under these circumstances, Snake Tongue wouldn't even need to increase her strength. He would collapse on his own. Lord Luo? Snake Tongue still used a civilized and polite greeting. Aside from the irreparable flaw in her host's appearance, there was nothing to nitpick about. Shui Lei couldn't stand this hypocrisy. He opened his mouth to ridicule. No wonder your nickname has the word tongue in it. You really talk a lot of nonsense. I'm truly sorry. I really can't think of anything else to do aside from talking. Snake Tongue urged Black Beetle forward 2 steps. This made Shui Lei feel as if he was facing a great enemy. Black Beetle really wasn't much right now, but if the surrounding poison veil rolled a few more times, Luo Nan would most likely collapse. And this was the reason why Snake Tongue was neither fast nor slow. Shui Lei gritted his teeth. Snake Tongue continued to speak. I could have ended this situation much faster. But I'm ashamed that my cultivation isn't up to par. I can't guarantee that your wisdom and aura will be preserved completely. What kind of information you can leave behind will mostly depend on luck. This will have an extremely high chance of erasing Lord Luo's charismatic theory. It would be too much of a pity. Snake Tongue. Puppeteer couldn't stand it any longer above Heavenly Ocean Lake. He looked at his watch once more to confirm the time. Even if the Xia City Police and Cloud City Water Village's security department were all trash, they would certainly have reacted by now. What's more, the Xia City branch was behind them. Now that they had finally gained the upper hand, they had to hurry up and put Luo Nen down and snatch him into their hands. Do your own thing well. Snake Tongue's voice directly rang in his ear. It was a warning that was neither light nor heavy. And at this time, Luo Nan, who had been silent all this time, spoke. You guys were asking about Wang. Isn't that off topic? Idiot. You're still in the mood to chat? Shut up. Hold your breath. Zhang Yingying was already driving at high speed in the metropolis. Her driving points for this year had already been deducted completely, and she still had to spend most of her effort. She was worried about this troublesome thing, and she really wanted to pull the steering wheel off. Nanster, listen to Sister Ing. Don't talk. Shui Lei also wanted to stop Luo Nan from talking, but Luo Nan patted him on the shoulder to comfort him. Black Beetle continued to act as a mouthpiece, helping Snake Tongue and Luo Nen realize the conversation. From my standpoint, Wang's whereabouts and the like can't move me as much as Lord Luo's theory. Thank you very much. Luo Nan continued to speak in a weak voice. So what you're saying is that we'll continue to discuss this topic until I'm knocked out by the poisonous mist. Or until you finish constructing your fortifications. There was suddenly no sound on the viewing platform. Fortifications? Regardless of whether it was Shui Lei, Zhang Yingying, or even Puppeteer, who was on the other side, they once again encountered a barrier to understanding. They were stunned for a time. Snake Tongue probably felt the same way. Only after 5 whole seconds had passed did she speak through Black Beetle, but her tone was much heavier than before. Lord Luo, have you been observing me this entire time? I've been guessing at you. Luo Nan's breathing gradually turned hurried. The minute amounts of poison that had seeped into his body were affecting him more and more clearly, but he still spoke. I was thinking that, with your abilities, if you had acted together with Black Beetle and the others and caught me by surprise, I probably wouldn't have been able to hold on until now. But you didn't come. You just made a lampshade. It's better than nothing. It doesn't make sense for a great killing machine to be ordered around by a logistics personnel. So I guessed. Of course, I had the support of a certain person's intelligence. I thought that you must have come here in an out-of-body state. Admittedly, it's convenient, but it's also weak, especially when facing someone like me who specializes in sensing and mental attacks. Your personality should be more cautious and protective of your body. You haven't launched your final attack yet. Perhaps you're worried that you'll use too much strength and be detected by me. If I really do catch you, your defensive abilities will be inferior to Black Beetle and the others. Snake Tongue was silent for a few seconds before she said, Has Lord Luo discovered my position? I'm not too sure. So I'll listen to you. Let's chat some more? Snake Tongue didn't make a sound. She seemed to be muttering to herself as she pondered over her next move. Shui Lei, Zhang Yingying, and Puppeteer were speechless for a time. So it turned out that there was another confrontation going on the viewing platform, and they were completely unaware of it. Even though Luo Nan had made it clear, they were still like this. The gazes of Shui Lei and Puppeteer were all focused on Luo Nan's body, but they were unable to see any clues. Luo Nan's complexion was still not too good. The protective glass behind him was curved, making it uncomfortable for him to lean against it. He laboriously adjusted his leaning posture, and when he finally felt a bit more comfortable, he extended 2 fingers and gestured. A second passed, and Snake Tongue spoke through Black Beetle. Lord Luo's meaning is, to answer your question just now. Luo Nan seemed to be in the mood to talk. You just asked me about the issue of my order frame. According to Black Beetle's evaluation standards, it contains 2 gears. One is large and one is small. Luo Nan spoke simply, but the inner meaning was much more complicated. Of the 2 gears, the large one was the format pyramid. It was represented by the external neuron and the soul strength stored within it. Xiao Shenyu called it an external technique during his lecture. He said that it was like an enormous iceberg, its laws strict. The small one was the heart lantern of the eye's orifice. Luo Nan had made some progress in his 10 days of cultivation. It was an extension of his skeletal system, but it was not mature enough. It could only be considered a sampan floating outside the iceberg. The large and small gears had some sort of coupling relationship from the very beginning. Luo Nan channeled his soul strength from the format pyramid, causing the heart lantern of the eye's orifice to rapidly grow and strengthen. This was one of the reasons. The heart lantern of the eye's orifice and the format pyramid shared information. This was the second reason. This was especially true for the latter. At the very beginning, Luo Nan's clairvoyance on both Black Beetle and Puppeteer's life sketches were obscured by a dense fog, forming interference. After the new coupling relationship took shape, it was like wind passing through a gap. Light illuminated the earth. Most of the dark clouds and turbid mist were swept away from the 2's life sketches, and even the entire Star River diagram. Layer upon layer was transparent, marvelous beyond compare. It was impossible for Luo Nan to speak of these details. Rather than saying that he was discussing with Snake Tongue, it would be better to say that he was using the process of speaking to further sort out his thoughts, which were gradually taking shape. Therefore, he didn't care whether or not Snake Tongue responded. He continued speaking, minding his own business. My problem lies in the fact that the 2 gears aren't on the same order of magnitude. They are too close to each other. They lack a reasonable structure. Even if a coupling relationship is formed, wear and tear is hard to avoid. He turned his face in the direction of the heavenly ocean lake and laughed. He had clearly exposed his shortcomings, but this rare expression made Puppeteer's heart tremble with fear. A special structure is necessary to form a linkage between gears of enormous difference in mass. An intermediate link is necessary. It's like the Devil Ray. It's rampaging through the crystal pillar, killing countless people. Getting close to it is a dead end. But as long as it's a bit further away, many small fish and shrimps can rely on the food scraps left behind by the Devil Ray to live quite comfortably. Puppeteer subconsciously looked down at his feet. He only came to a realization when he was halfway there. This topic had gone way too far. Even Snake Tongue was a bit unable to keep up with Luo Nan's rhythm. In the end, she could only let out an unclear sigh. Lord Luo, when you use your unique way of thinking, it truly makes one revere you. However, we are still mortals in essence. It's not a good thing to be too far away from the mortal plane. Black Beetle suddenly took a step forward as he spoke. Shui Lei didn't know how far the situation had developed, but his duty to protect Luo Nan would not change. He immediately bowed slightly, entering a fighting state. Luo Nan paused the communication that only he understood. His bloodshot eyes pointed at Black Beetle's ugly and deformed face, but in the end, he just swept a glance over it. Then he lowered his eyelids. Didn't you want to discuss? I'm very worried about Lord Luo's current situation. Snake Tongue's concern was just like Black Beetle's face. All that was left was a shriveled and empty shell. As she spoke, the light green poison screen silently closed up toward the center. The range was very small, and it was extremely cautious. Black Beetle also pushed forward. His speed wasn't fast, but his center of gravity shifted erratically at any time. It was 70 to 80% of Black Beetle's peak state. Shui Lei had to pay attention to the poison screen and smoke, and he also had to lock onto Black Beetle. He also had to worry about Luo Nan's state. His mind was divided. It was truly exhausting. Shui Lei heard the clear sound of Luo Nan's breathing behind him at this time. He was startled. He turned his head to look, ignoring Black Beetle's movements in front of him. Black Beetle seemed to be stunned as well. He actually didn't take the opportunity to launch an attack. Luo Nan didn't care about what the others were thinking. He took a deep breath and slowly exhaled. He didn't avoid the toxic environment surrounded by the poison screen and smoke at all. He subconsciously moved his lower jaw during this process, waving away the numbness on his face. The main component of Black Beetle's bug explosion poison should be a polypeptide neurotoxin. The possibility of it being ISTX-3 is a bit higher. It is transmitted through the bloodstream and acts directly on ion channels. It possesses an extremely powerful paralyzing effect. However, Black Beetle has done a great deal of modulation in order to increase the efficiency of the effect. This has increased the possibility of respiratory tract infection, but it has also reduced the toxicity. Luo Nan didn't even raise his eyes when he spoke to this point. He laughed. Does this count as being on the secular level? Ms. Snake Tongue, we agreed to discuss this. It's not good for you to leave midway. Snake Tongue found it hard to conceal her astonishment. Lord Luo has done research on neurotoxins? I've taken a lot of medicine. I can resist it a bit. That being said, Luo Nan would have been in big trouble today if he didn't have the foundation of the container format and the opening of the eye's orifice to stimulate the functions of the human body as a foundation. He definitely wouldn't be like he was right now, breathing out poisonous gas, scaring people, and playing around. Luo Nan leaned against the protective glass and switched to a more comfortable position. He wouldn't tell Snake Tongue that half of his body was covered in numbness. He would tumble if he took a single step. However, his nervous system was in an abnormal excited state due to the stimulation of the neurotoxin. This was what he needed the most right now. Chapter 311. Luo Nan spoke of frames, gears, and so on. His pretentiousness had truly risen. He paired it with a few professional terms, greatly increasing the effect of scaring people. Snake Tongue was silent for a time. She was probably re-evaluating Luo Nan's state. As for Shui Lei, he wasn't too clear on what was going on, but Luo Nan's appearance made him let out a long breath. His entire body relaxed. Nanster, you're amazing. Most of Shui Lei's thoughts were on Luo Nan when he was surrounded by the poisonous mist. The feeling of apprehension and fear was truly unpleasant. It was difficult for him to display his abilities to the fullest. Most of his worries were gone now, and the pressure on his mind was lifted. The energy of his entire body became much smoother. Luo Nan gave Shui Lei a thumbs up. He had no intention of telling him the truth. The feeling of losing control of half his body was unpleasant, but it was worth it if he could free up Shui Lei's immediate combat strength. However, Shui Lei was still afraid. He was worried that his opponent would use some sinister trick, so he whispered, "Nanster, I'll take you down now." "No, we'll attack." Luo Nan's voice was even deeper, but his will was unwavering. The veins on his forehead pulsed slightly. The heart lantern of the eye's orifice coupled with the pyramid to form the glimmering breeze. It brushed across the viewing platform and most of the skyscraper. It illuminated every corner, including the life sketches of every living being. The enormous amount of information was not easy to process. Luo Nan could only roughly differentiate based on the distance and the degree of danger. The information piled up, and one response plan after another took shape, alternating back and forth. Luo Nan didn't lack ideas. What he lacked was judgment built from abundant experience. At this time, the principles created by the experiences of his predecessors became the first basis for his judgment. Therefore, Professor Cragburst's principles of mentality were still the basis for Luo Nan's actions. His self-belief and plans were all built on the unshakable advantage of winning, which also created a will that was as hard as steel at this moment. We don't have the time to continue tangling with Snake Tongue. Right now, we need to get rid of Black Beetle. Without this starting point, Snake Tongue can only act in the mental domain. When that happens, victory will be ours. Shui Lei's gaze cut across Black Beetle. He felt that the distance was suitable. He could advance or retreat, but there would be some variables once the battle began. In this moment of hesitation, his opponent made the first move. The Black Beetle let out a low and hoarse syllable. It sounded like an incantation, but it also sounded like the hissing of insects. The poisonous mist curtains closed around them, and the light green color suddenly deepened as it hissed in the air. Combined with Zhang Yingying's information, it was clear that he had forcefully catalyzed the poisonous fog. Not only was it neurotoxin, but it had also turned into corrosive poisonous fog. Presumably, Snake Tongue felt that the nerve poison wasn't effective enough, so she switched to a corrosive one and tried again. Luo Nan wasn't surprised when he saw this scene. His previous words weren't concealed at all. It was tantamount to forcing Snake Tongue to make a move. He sped up his speech and told Shui Lei, "I remember you saying that you've just mastered the hidden thunder?" Luo Nan didn't wait for Shui Lei to respond. He flipped through the pages of the notebook in his hand, and the last paper man appeared. What was different from its companions was that while it was in midair, its paper body ignited with flames, pouncing into the poison screen that was about to close. Special materials and special techniques formed a special flame. The quality was quite extraordinary, but this was an extremely crude response. The corrosive poisonous fog exploded and ignited upon contact with the fire. Large amounts of sparks sputtered out, and the toxicity violently evaporated. For a time, Shui Lei's eyes and nose were filled with the smell of fire. His scalp felt like it was going to explode, and he finally understood Luo Nan's intentions. He gritted his teeth and let out a deep roar. The energy around his body was restrained, and then it erupted explosively. The martial arts suit on his body rattled, and streams of air rolled chaotically, scattering the oncoming flames. This move could prevent fire, but it could not prevent poison. The poison was instantly activated, and it was several times more intense than before. Even Shui Lei felt his limbs go numb. Fortunately, his body was illuminated by the bright glyph. Soon, these negative feelings were completely suppressed and cleanly swept away. Shui Lei was most worried about Luo Nan. Right when he was about to turn around, someone pushed him on the back. "Make it quick." The push wasn't strong, but it was direct and efficient. It wiped away all distracting thoughts from Shui Lei's mind. Shui Lei growled. He relied on his powerful body to forcefully break through the area of sparks and smoke, charging upward. Luo Nan's body subconsciously wanted to slide down as he watched Shui Lei's figure pounce forward. His already chaotic vision became even more blurry. But soon, the format pyramid and the heart lantern of the eye's orifice coupled to form the glimmering breeze. It blew through his orifices and illuminated his body. Everywhere it passed, the feeling of numbness was greatly alleviated. Strands of heat evaporated, giving him a bit more strength. In the end, he was able to steadily lean against the protective glass. He didn't reveal any fear. Deep within the mental plane, there was a strange shadow hiding behind layers of defense. It was impossible to detect any flaws. Shui Lei's charge was a move that reversed the situation. Black Beetle had pressed forward to a certain distance, but Shui Lei suddenly pounced forward. His powerful explosive strength made him seem like a fierce tiger crossing a ravine. He screamed as he arrived, and the stellar energy around his body directly tore apart the remaining smoke and poison screen midway. Black Beetle's control over the poison mist was completely broken, but his footwork was still erratic. He made timely missteps, allowing Shui Lei to charge at him head-on. Shui Lei's gaze was fierce. His tall and sturdy body instantly made a half-turn like flowing water. His shoulder struck and his elbow struck, drawing out a torrential storm of close-quarters combat. His small range of shifting changes was actually not much inferior to Black Beetle's. Black Beetle's reaction was still inferior to his normal state. He dodged the shoulder strike, but he couldn't dodge the elbow strike. His body suddenly stiffened. Shui Lei seized the opportunity. A low roar burst forth from his throat. Full of energy, he punched out, followed by another. Black Beetle's shoulder, neck, and face suffered heavy blows. At first, there was no sound, but after 3 punches, there was suddenly the sound of thunder. The blows penetrated his skin and flesh, penetrating his brain. The latent energy exploded, and Black Beetle's ugly and deformed head swelled up and then exploded. Within the shattered skull, the beetle's body suddenly shriveled as if it was about to explode. In reality, it had used this to avoid most of the pressure from the punches. It forcefully shrunk downwards, following the broken blood vessels in Black Beetle's broken body. This scene was demonic and terrifying. However, Shui Lei, who had entered battle mode, turned a blind eye to it. He only followed the flow of energy and hammered down with another punch. The sound of thunder rang out once more. The shoulder, neck, and chest of Black Beetle's broken body were severely deformed and caved in. It was no longer humanoid. Any normal person in such a state would have died 100%. However, Shui Lei still didn't feel too good. His gaze locked onto Black Beetle's broken body, and he hammered down again. But at this time, Luo Nan's telepathic thoughts directly entered his mind. Retreat. Shui Lei didn't even think when he was stimulated. He withdrew his fist force and his figure flashed back. Black Beetle's severely caved-in chest suddenly swelled at nearly the same beat as Shui Lei. It looked like his entire body was about to explode, but before it could explode, it was forcefully restrained by an incorporeal force. In the end, only a bloody mist erupted from Black Beetle's neck, which had already turned into rotten flesh. The bloody light hissed in the air. A portion of it sprayed towards Shui Lei's head, but Shui Lei's fist force burst forth, forcibly shaking it away. Shui Lei's expression didn't relax after escaping from danger. He suddenly turned his head to look at Luo Nan, just in time to see the inexplicable flash of lightning in his best friend's blood-red eyes. Before Shui Lei could understand what was going on, a despairing cry rang out in his ear. Ah! The ugly green-shelled beetle emerged once more from the upper half of Black Beetle's broken body. Half of its body fused into the damaged flesh, while the other half, including its head and the hard shell on its back, emitted fiery smoke. The light of flames curled upwards, faintly forming the shape of a human struggling in pain. It was Black Beetle's wraith. Perhaps Black Beetle was clear-headed at this moment, but his resentful emotions had already been reduced to the surface. His screams were filled with despair and fear. His screams were born from his current state of being neither human nor ghost. Snake tongue. Snake tongue. All of Black Beetle's vocal organs had been cleanly destroyed. His screams were actually the materialization of intense negative thoughts. They were like curses, but they were also like begging. Many thanks for your help. An extraordinarily gentle and refined voice quietly entered Black Beetle's ears like a gentle breeze. She used the airflow of the viewing platform as a musical instrument to play, and faintly discernible thoughts seeped in to produce sound. Who would have thought that this was Snake Tongue? The milder Snake Tongue's reply was, the more intense Black Beetle's reaction became. The intense emotions made the light of the flames burn even more. But no matter what, Black Beetle was just a potted plant in a flower pot of flesh and blood. No matter how it twisted and struggled, it couldn't break free. It couldn't die. It just swayed back and forth with its ruined body. The scene sent chills down one's spine. Snake Tongue didn't have the leisure to chat with a fellow whose self-awareness was about to be extinguished. Her tone grew all the more relaxed and gentle. Indeed, many thanks to Black Beetle. He allowed Lord Luo to display his strengths, and he allowed me to use this method to come into contact with Lord Luo. Shui Lei didn't really understand what Snake Tongue meant, but when he heard her tone and the change in her previous sinister methods, he instinctively felt that something was wrong. Nanster? Luo Nan leaned against the protective glass. His blood-red eyes locked onto Black Beetle. The blood that had just stopped flowed down once more, dripping from his chin onto his white coat. Soon, an eye-piercing mark appeared. Black Beetle's body had swelled to the point of explosion just now. Luo Nan had used his soul strength to forcefully interfere with Black Beetle's central gear, forcefully pressing it down. Otherwise, what sprayed out wouldn't have been a bloody mist. Instead, it would have been a standard flesh bomb. Xue Lei might not have been able to withstand it, and Luo Nan would not have been able to withstand the rapidly spreading toxins in the environment. Luo Nan's interference technique was extremely ingenious. He had to have the ability to clearly see through the enemy's foundation. Only then could he do it. However, Snake Tongue was the manipulator of the other side. She had long since buried a trap here. Luo Nan's soul strength had just seeped in when she firmly locked it in place. The soul strength of the two collided head-on for the first time, forming a dangerous deadlock. The flesh bomb would explode with a bang if Luo Nan shrunk back in the slightest. Move back. Luo Nan squeezed out 3 words from between his teeth. Xue Lei hesitated a bit, then he moved back. Snake Tongue borrowed the power of the wind to speak. Her voice was like a shadow following a body. She seemed to be in the mood for discussion. From the effects of the soul animating the paper man, the intensity of Lord Luo's interference power far exceeds the scope of what the intelligence indicated. Aside from the dereliction of duty of the intelligence personnel, this is the result of the coupling of the 2 gears. It must be a method that he just comprehended. Luo Nan calculated Xue Lei's safe distance as he responded coldly, "Correct. No bonus points." However, Lord Luo should know very well that the root of your problem doesn't lie in your interference power. Instead, it lies in the serious imbalance between your body and soul. In other words, the problem of the disparity in the size of the gears. The more stunning your performance is, the more severe the consequences will be. So you used Black Beetle to create this trap for me? Luo Nan knew that creating a deadlock situation was absolutely not Snake Tongue's ultimate goal. Even though they were in a deadlock, Snake Tongue still used her superb soul strength to operate her techniques. She pressed down bit by bit, forcing Luo Nan to increase his input accordingly. They intertwined with each other until they transformed into a powerful incorporeal vortex. It was like a melee fight on the mental plane. This was none other than Snake Tongue's meticulous design. She used this method to make Luo Nan sink into the mud of a tug-of-war. Her ultimate goal was to avoid the powerful and fierce long-range attack. Though Snake Tongue had exposed the true location of her soul, she had dispelled the explosive power of Luo Nan's soul strength behind layers upon layers of defensive fortifications. It could be said that she had nothing to fear. Luo Nan sighed, "Fine. I want to say that you distorted the central gears to forcefully realize the mutual effects of the 4 gears on Black Beetle's body. This is absolutely not coupling. This kind of structural relationship is crude and low-level. It lacks beauty." Snake Tongue's voice was gentle. She sounded more like a teacher reciting beautiful poems. Things don't go as one wishes in the world. In the end, we still need to use the most realistic method to solve problems. Therefore, I used a low-level structure to draw in Lord Luo's interference to restrict your soul's strength. Next, I will use this unesthetic form of wrestling to touch the limits of your body bit by bit until it completely collapses. Perhaps it will be hard to retain your light of wisdom like this, but I can still add a top-notch collection to my collection. Collect your ancestor. Xue Lei angrily spat back. His eyes stared fixedly at the remains of Black Beetle's wraith. Even though he didn't understand the details, he knew that the most crucial point was there. It didn't matter if it was a hook or a trap. It was nothing once it was smashed. Though Xue Lei's figure was still moving back, it was smaller. He could counterattack at any time, and his speed would absolutely give his opponent a pleasant surprise. But Luo Nan called out to him once more, "Leister, calm down. It's rare to have someone to chat with." Luo Nan's body couldn't hold on any longer as he spoke. He slowly slid down and sat on the ground. Xue Lei turned to look, and his face flushed red when he saw this. His teeth were about to shatter from gritting them. But even so, Luo Nan still made a pacifying gesture towards him, wanting him to come back. Just as Shui Lei was gritting his teeth and struggling, Luo Nan raised his face slightly. He faced the location of Snake Tongue's sole true body and spoke softly as if he were chatting. Miss Snake Tongue, I must correct one of your views. Coupling relationships are divided into coarse and fine, low and high, but most of them are divided into existence and non-existence. If there is, then there is. If there isn't, then there isn't. You can't use coarse and low level as an excuse. Do you agree? Snake Tongue didn't feel any emotion of admiration when she saw that Luo Nan was able to maintain his composure in the face of a hopeless situation. She just went over her design from beginning to end once more and reconfirmed the strength of the fortifications. Only after everything was confirmed did she laugh softly. Lord Luo's way of speaking has a sort of arrogance to it. Can I understand that you are the only person who can explain your mother's research field? Luo Nan really did think it over carefully for a moment before shaking his head and saying, not necessarily. Then, Lord Luo is deliberately creating a topic to stall for time and wait for reinforcements? Luo Nan was stunned for a moment, then he immediately said, can't we just discuss the matter as it is? Coupling wasn't a basket that anyone could fit into. An overly broad definition would only diminish its value. Just like the flesh bomb you created, you're only creating conflict and chaos, but you're stingy in building a new order. If you insist on your view, then I also insist that you really don't understand coupling. Over at Heavenly Ocean Lake, Puppeteer had already reached his limit before Snake Tongue could respond. He's just stalling for time. A military shuttle is rushing over. Look at the lights. At the end of the pitch-black curtain of night, nothing could actually be seen. However, it was already the peak hour of work. The lights of the vehicles were a bit chaotic. With the relevant experience, it was very easy to determine that these vehicles had received the message to make space for a military police ship that had temporarily cut in line to land. Snake Tongue was calm and collected. It doesn't matter. In the current situation, unless the three heavyweights of Xia City rush over, no one will be able to help him out. Puppeteer nearly cursed out loud. You're a soul body. You can come and go as you please. I need time to retreat. He forcefully suppressed his emotions back into his stomach. He also understood that he couldn't keep playing with someone like Snake Tongue, so he decided to retreat first. Puppeteer shot a glance at the fuse that was already on the verge of death. This person was already useless. Forget it. I've done my part. I'll help you one more time. You guys play slowly. I won't keep you company. Yeah, before that, I need to leave behind a few beautiful memories. Puppeteer faced Luo Nan and Shui Lei with a smile as brilliant as the sun, revealing a mouthful of white teeth. Then he contacted Tank through his wristband, who had yet to appear. Floating. Do something that leaves a deep impression on people. Like lighting a fire or something? Luo Nan's drooping eyelids suddenly twitched twice. Shui Lei was stupefied for a moment before he suddenly came to a realization. He hastily turned his head to look at the distant wetland jungle. However, the sky had long since darkened. What could he see? Even so, it was impossible to count on the kindness of this group of people. Puppeteer continued chatting with Tank. If time is a bit tight, then just burn the top. Pay attention to destroying the fire system first. Holy crap. That fast? Okay, I'm just talking nonsense. I trust in your professional level. F***CK. Shui Lei's hair stood on end as he thought about the misfortune that the legendary building was currently suffering. He cursed loudly, Snake Tongue, you dare? Puppeteer shrugged. None of her business. This has nothing to do with me. Snake Tongue's voice was as gentle as before. However, regret is a hook buried within one's memories. It can always pull out the most moving tastes in the world. I don't mind painting my collection with a layer of tragic colors. Puppeteer cursed her inwardly for being unreasonable. His gaze behind the diving goggles swept past Shui Lei, who was practically on the verge of burning. There was also Luo Nan, who was sitting on the ground. Only his blood-red eyes faced Luo Nan, who had an expressionless face. Hiss, steady. You're pretending to be like this to purposefully disgust people, right? Fine, We'll be disgusted by each other. Puppeteer's smile grew even wider. Fine. You guys chat slowly. I'll be leaving first. Oh, thank you, Snake Tongue. You saved me the expense of a fuse. As he spoke, his thumb, which was gripping Tianxi's slender neck, rose slightly. He forcefully moved the woman's chin, forcing her to regain a bit of clarity. Emotions of fear surfaced once more within Tianxi's hazy and dazed pupils. Puppeteer smiled in satisfaction and whistled again. The water of the heavenly ocean lake rumbled, and the devil ray restlessly slapped the surface of the water. Its enormous mouth split open, and it looked at the figure above, drooling with desire. Puppeteer laughed softly, but he deliberately raised his voice. This is your reward. Drag it down and enjoy it slowly. Don't be too anxious. Let the people on every level take a look. Let our Mr. Luo have ample time to consider. His mother's work or his lover's life? Which one should he save first? Or perhaps he can't save either? Puppeteer's gaze pointed at Luo Nan once more. His gaze locked with those blood-red eyes, and he maintained a smile. His 5 fingers loosened, allowing Tianxi to fall down. The water rumbled, and the devil ray slapped its pectoral fins. It leaped up, its large mouth opened with fine teeth, and it faced the figure above. It was in this instant that Puppeteer saw the blood overflowing from Luo Nan's eyes, as well as the marks that continued to be engraved on his face. Puppeteer's heart was incomparably satisfied. His index and middle fingers, which had just been freed from the burden, streaked across Luo Nan's forehead, sending a greeting. We'll never meet again. Puppeteer gently leaped up, heading toward the dome. He was just about to cross over the framed steel beams when he heard the muffled sound of falling into the water. The clear difference made his heart skip a beat, and he instinctively lowered his gaze. He just happened to see the devil ray unfurl its pectoral fins that exceeded 15 meters in length. It was like an enormous demonic bat as it soared into the air and landed beneath Puppeteer's feet. Why did it fly so high? Hold on. Was that the sound of water? Puppeteer's gaze shifted, and he saw a velvet skirt temporarily bulging from being soaked in the water within the undulating waves of the heavenly ocean lake. Get out of the way! Snake Tongue's unprecedented warning exploded, causing Puppeteer to shiver in shock. However, this did not hinder his instincts, which had been tempered over and over again, from forcefully shifting his position. And at nearly the same time, another deep shout exploded directly on the soul plane. Puppeteer! Puppeteer knew that he absolutely should not be distracted, but the fierce and cold blade that penetrated the depths of his soul forced Puppeteer to turn his head. He locked eyes with the blood-filled eyes in the distance. Lightning tore through the turbid blood, dazzling to the eye. Even though he was wearing diving goggles, Puppeteer still instinctively squinted his eyes. It was as if he really could see a lightning spear flickering in the night sky, heading straight for his chest. At this moment, all his instincts and tempering were annihilated in a puff of smoke under the soul-tearing attack. Puppeteer's body stiffened in the most unnatural way. The mutant devil ray's body was enormous, and its flying momentum was swift and violent. Even though Puppeteer had shifted at least 3 body lengths, it was still not enough. It was far from enough. A rain of blood sprayed out, and the sharp teeth of the devil ray's mouth latched onto Puppeteer's right arm. It was the same arm that had previously choked Tianxi. In an instant, Puppeteer's limbs were separated. Then came the impact of the pectoral fins and wings. The hidden mutated barbs directly pierced through Puppeteer's chest, piercing in along with 2 rows of ribs. The sharp pain caused him to sober up a bit. He kicked with all his might, and he actually managed to borrow some strength to fly to the side. However, the over 10-meter-long tail of the whip buzzed as it lashed out, bringing with it the sound of chains shaking. The heavy whip struck Puppeteer right in the face. His diving goggles shattered and splattered, revealing Puppeteer's bulging eyes as well as his exceptionally incredulous expression. In the blink of an eye, all of this was torn to pieces by the powerful pressure that burst forth. Only a headless and mutilated body fell straight into the heavenly ocean lake. Waves of blood came and went, and very soon, it was completely diluted. You're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.